Chapter 16:15. If he really had to choose, he would not hesitate to choose the first exclusive skill, giant whale body. Thinking of this, he was no longer conflicted. Instead, he checked the floating island whale's third exclusive skill. His eyes widened when he saw it. This exclusive skill was not recorded in the Hidden Moon Pavilion. It was not recorded in the island whale's secret case. Looking at the introduction of this exclusive skill, Li Xian was certain. This exclusive skill had appeared because the island whale had mutated into a floating island whale. Floating island mystic realm, open up a special space in the whale's abdomen by devouring wind elemental energy. The higher the purity of the wind elemental energy, the larger the space in the whale's abdomen. However, the largest area will not exceed twice the size of the body. By devouring water elemental energy, the flesh will be filled with a powerful fusion ability. It can take any living or non-living things into the fat layer of the whale's skin and use it to nourish these living or non-living things. The higher the purity of the water elemental energy, the stronger the fusion ability of the flesh and blood. The floating island mystic realm's exclusive skill used wind and water elemental energy. There was no wind elemental energy in an ordinary island whale's body. After the floating island whale flew into the sky, Lin Yuan actually did not need the floating island whale itself. How strong were their attacks and defenses? Whether it was blue, which had transformed into water, it was still relying on absorbing the aura released by the plant Fei. The favored spirit, which was constantly getting stronger, was gray. It could protect the island whale very well. Moreover, the artificially cultivated island whale had a true defensive means. It was often the guardian Fei on its back. It had a strong sense of tower defense. Lin Yuan was interested in the first exclusive skill, giant whale body. This was because the first exclusive skill, giant whale body, could increase the size of the floating island whale's back. He wanted to build a new sky city on the floating island whale's back. The larger the area of the floating island whale's back, the better. If the floating island whale chose the exclusive skill, floating island mystic realm, it could open up a mystic realm in its abdomen with wind elemental energy. To some extent, it was equivalent to increasing the area of the floating island whale's back. It was like living in a flat floor. I live in a 2-story building. Although the area is different, but our actual use area is the same. The floating island whale needs to be hidden in the air. If the floating island whale could get more space without increasing its body size, it would be much better. This was undoubtedly good news for Lin Yuan. After all, the bigger the body, the easier it was to become a target. Gray Ash wanted to completely envelop the floating island whale. He would definitely face a lot of pressure. In addition, the secret realm in the whale's belly was a hidden space. Whether it was storing supplies or making some other arrangements, doing it in the whale's belly was definitely safer than doing it on the floating island whale's back. At that time, he could be in the whale's belly. He used the ethereal jellyfish's exclusive skill, Space Tunnel. Build a passage from the underground space of return from faraway manor to the belly of the floating island whale. It could be said that the floating island mystic realm had opened up an abdominal space. There were pros and cons to using the giant whale's body to increase the floating island whale's size. While both sides were increasing the construction area, his exclusive skill, the floating island mystic realm, focused more on concealment. The giant whale's body increased its endurance, offensive and defensive capabilities. An elemental well appeared in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. Lin Yuan's preparation of pure wind elemental energy could be said to be unparalleled in the world. Therefore, he was confident that he could expand the floating island whale's abdomen to the maximum. That was twice its size. In that case, the area after choosing the floating island mystic realm, it would be a little larger than choosing the giant whale's body. In addition, the floating island mystic realm had an ability that the giant whale's body could not compare to. It could devour the water elemental energy and turn the floating island whale's flesh and blood into adhesives. Building on the floating island whale's back. It was like transplanting the building materials into the floating island whale's flesh and blood. This method would undoubtedly make the buildings built on the floating island whale's back abnormally strong. It was like turning the buildings into a part of the floating island whale's body. Under normal circumstances, if one wanted to build on the floating island whale's back, a thick layer of soil was needed on the island whale's back first. Then, the soil would be reinforced. This batch of soil would be tightly attached to the island whale's back. Then, the foundation would be laid on the soil and construction would begin. This construction method made it so that no matter how many reinforcement methods were used, the buildings on the island whale's back could not be guaranteed to be very strong. It was fine when the island whale was swimming steadily on the sea. But when the island whale dived into the water or was attacked, the island whale was not enough to open a shield to protect the buildings on its back. Then these buildings were very likely to be separated from the island whale's body. It was impossible for the floating island whale to fly in the sky as smoothly as it did on the sea. Lin Yuan had been thinking about how to reinforce those 3 whale bones. He could use the whale bones to build on the floating island whale's back. Now, all the problems were easily solved. The buildings grew in the floating island whale's fat layer. Even if the floating island whale did a 360-degree turn in the air, the buildings would not have any possibility of separating. At the same time, the floating island whale could also use the energy in the whale's skin and fat. It could nourish the living or dead things that had fused on its back. If he planted plant phase on the floating island whale's back, these plant phase would grow even faster. The dead things would be on the floating island whale's back. These dead things could also avoid the sun and wind, which would cause the weathering of the materials themselves. At that time, Gray's plant phase could produce weather. A small garden could be built on the island whale's back. Gray could then be bound to the floating island whale in the sky. Lin Yuan suddenly had an idea. If the floating island whale could use this method to absorb spiritual materials, wasn't this the same as sticking a film on a phone? The tempered film would work. Lin Yuan could use spiritual materials at will to modify the floating island whale. For example, he could use the dragon scales of a main dragon species Fei. He could let the floating island whale absorb them and cover the surface of its body. It could greatly increase the floating island whale's defensive ability. Or he could use the feathers of a wind-type main phoenix species Fei. He could let the floating island whale's wings absorb them. It could undoubtedly increase the floating island whale's speed. This ability allowed the floating island whale to strengthen itself through external objects. It increased a lot of plasticity. In Lin Yuan's eyes, the exclusive skill floating island mystic realm. It was the best choice to make the floating island whale a floating fortress. It could beat the strategic S-class exclusive skilled giant whale body and the S+ class pilot whale lord. Lin Yuan chose the exclusive skill floating island mystic realm without hesitation. It was the floating island whale's exclusive skill. After Lin Yuan made his choice, the floating island whale began to chew on the eggshell to increase its strength. Instant Beast Evolution Quotient. Please bookmark this site so that you can read it online the next time there's an update. Starting to update the mobile version of Do 5. Chapter 16:16. During this process, the floating island whale's body kept growing. However, the increase was not large. After growing to about 6 meters in size, it stopped growing. Apparently, the eggshell was also finished chewing. Lin Yuan immediately used Morbius True Data. He wanted to see how the floating island whale's skills were. Fei name, floating island whale, spirit species, large-winged whale/island whale, Fey grade, silver, 6/10, Fey type, water/wind, Fey quality, elite skills frowny face whale blood barrier. By burning one's blood essence, one can form an arc-shaped barrier on one's back that can protect everything on one's back. Water vapor whalebone, turns the whalebone into water vapor. Through the water vapor, the whalebone captures the nutrients in the environment and recovers the body's consumption. Whalefish empowerment, through the blowhole on the top of the head, the energy in the body can be released in an instant and supplied to the object that has fused with the body to replenish energy or repair it. Exclusive skill frowny face floating island secret realm, by devouring wind elemental energy, open up a special space in the whale's belly. The higher the purity of the wind elemental energy, the larger the space in the whale's belly. However, the largest area will not exceed twice the size of the whale's body. By devouring the energy of the water element, the flesh and blood will be filled with a powerful fusion ability. Any living or non-living thing can be planted in the fat layer of the whale's skin and used to nourish these living or non-living things. The higher the purity of the water element, the stronger the fusion ability of the flesh and blood. He saw the floating island whale's 3 skills from normal to silver. Lin Yuan could not help but clench his fist tightly. His face was filled with excitement. Normally, the abilities of the island whale's normal and elite skills were fixed. Even if there were changes, the effects wouldn't be much different. Normal skills could produce whale blood barrier, whale blubber barrier, and elemental barrier. Of the 3 types of barriers, the whale blood barrier was the best. The elemental barrier consumed the elemental energy in the island whale's body. The blubber barrier consumed the body fat of the island whale. After these 2 things were used up, they were not as easy to recover as fresh blood. The heart of an adult island whale was bigger than a building. Next to the heart, there were 4 spleens. Every time the heart contracted, the 4 spleens would pump out fresh blood. To some extent, as long as the island whale grew to adulthood, it would not be able to survive. He could treat the active skill, whale blood barrier, as a passive skill. Leaving it on 24 hours a day wouldn't have much of an effect on his body. Instead, it sped up his metabolism. Elite skills usually included strengthened baleen, extended baleen, tentacle baleen, and current baleen. There was no exception to these skills. They were all endurance skills for the island whale to recover its internal energy. Whether it was strengthened baleen, extended baleen, or tentacle baleen. None of them had escaped their original limits. It was just that the baleen's filtering ability had been increased. 1 increases the coverage of the baleen. 1 is to increase the subjective initiative of the baleen. However, these 3 skills were completely crushed by the current whalebone. Through the flow of water, the baleen filtered the energy in the surrounding environment. As a result, the floating island whale did not need to frequently open its mouth to filter food. The absorption of energy could be completed. Not only did it enhance the island whale's appearance, but it also enhanced the energy recovery ability in its body. The floating island whale's elite skill, vapor baleen. There was no doubt that it was a replica of the current whalebone. This was because the floating island whale had mastered 2 types of elemental energy. Therefore, the floating island whale's baleen could be transformed into these 2 types of elemental energy to filter food. When the water and air elements fused, they could turn into clouds. At that time, the floating island whale could filter the clouds. It could spread the clouds into the area covered by the gray clouds. He could comfortably eat his fill in this area. Usually, the island whale that obtained the current whalebone skill, even if its exclusive skills and other skills were amazing. Its strategic level would also be rated A by the judges. This was because the island whale was in the sea. If it did not encounter an emergency, it would consume a lot of energy. It could almost be said to achieve unlimited endurance. There was no need to artificially replenish the island whale's energy midway. The floating island whale's normal and elite skills were obtained. They were all the best choices. In Lin Yuan's opinion, the silver skill, whale spout empowerment. It was a skill that would only be used in an emergency. First, the floating island whale would release the energy in its body in an instant. If it wanted to recover, it would undoubtedly take a long time. The effect of whale spout empowerment depended on the amount of energy in the floating island whale's body. In terms of energy, phase of the same grade. Usually, the larger the phase, the stronger the energy contained in its body. The island whale was the largest existence among all the living beings in the world. The energy in the island whale's body could be said to be abnormally terrifying. It was like a building rooted in the floating island whale's fat layer. When the energy in the floating island whale's body erupted. After the building was damaged, this energy would immediately repair the building. When encountering an enemy, when the island whale faced an enemy, it was like playing a tower defense game. In a positional battle, it mainly relied on elemental attack plant phase. These plant phase relied on elemental energy to attack. Often, after a few attacks, the energy in their bodies would be exhausted. Now, with the supply of whale spout empowerment, the defensive offense on the floating island whale's back could quickly pour out in an instant. It could deal the strongest damage. Building a defensive offense on the island whale's back required a lot of resources. It was a kind of resource consumption that even a federation had to consider. Lin Yuan did not need to think about it. After getting close to the floating island whale for a while, Lin Yuan stored it in the spirit lock spatial zone. Shueshua marveled for a long time before saying to Lin Yuan, this island whale has undergone such a mutation. Lin Yuan, this island whale can definitely be called a heaven and earth mutant for such a mutation. A newly hatched spirit seems to have higher intelligence than an adult island whale. I think if it can encounter some great opportunity, it has a high chance of becoming a spirit of providence. Shueshua wanted to continue speaking. However, he did not say the second half of the sentence. It was still unknown whether this floating island whale could become a spirit of providence. Every natural environment now had a heavenly spirit that favored them. It was not impossible for a natural environment to have two kinds of spirits of providence. However, it was very difficult to happen. Normally, even if it happened, it would only be a partial overlap. The spirit of providence that controlled the earth had appeared. The Blue Lotus also had the tendency to control the power of the four seas to control the power of the ocean. However, there had never been a spirit of providence that could control the sky. If this floating island whale was really lucky enough to become a spirit of providence, presumably, this floating island whale should belong to the sky. Instant Beast Evolution Quotient. Please bookmark this site so that you can read it online the next time there is an update. Starting to update the mobile version of Do 5. Chapter 16-17. Lin Yuan had just returned to the manor and had yet to return to his room. He received a call from Gao Feng. Gao Feng had been in seclusion during this period of time. He had completely disappeared from the group. Now, Gao Feng was calling him. Gao Feng must have finished increasing his strength. He had contracted a sacred source life form. He picked up the phone. Lin Yuan heard Gao Feng's choking voice from the other end of the phone. Lin Yuan, Master has finally let me out. I'm really exhausted during this period of time. I've only been in seclusion for 2 months. Why do I feel like I've been training for 2.5 years? Hearing Gao Feng's words, Lin Yuan's face revealed a smiling expression. Gao Feng was actually quite a hard-working person. In order to increase his strength, find a better team, and participate in the all-star competition. For a long period of time, Gao Feng did additional training. Otherwise, even if he had a chance at the night conference, if he did not work hard, he would not have been able to seize the opportunity. He had become Lord Cicada Cry's disciple. It seemed that during these 2 months, Lord Cicada Cry's discipline towards Gao Feng should be very strict. Gao Feng was going to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence selection. As his disciple, Gao Feng had an unshirkable responsibility. Lord Cicada Cry did not know of his identity as black. Lin Yuan had not told Gao Feng about this. Lord Cicada Cry had placed the heavy responsibility of fighting against the Freedom Federation's envoy. It was all on Gao Feng. Gao Feng's strength must have reached a new level. Before Lin Yuan could ask about Gao Feng's new situation, Gao Feng continued to speak. "Brother, I'm done here. Radiance 100 sequence, all of you might have to come and watch the ceremony. You will definitely be able to see me fight." Lin Yuan heard from Gao Feng's words. He did not hear that it was easy to come out of seclusion after 2 months. Gao Feng's words carried an abnormally heavy feeling. Lin Yuan heard Gao Feng's hoarse voice. "Brother, if you are not busy, I would like to invite you for a few drinks." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan immediately understood. Why did Gao Feng's words sound so heavy? The reason should be after the Radiance 100 sequence selection. The confrontation with the Freedom Federation's envoy. This was either an inevitable result or Gao Feng had predicted it himself. Either that or he was told by the cicadas. In short, Gao Feng had no choice. He had to bear it. This was also after Gao Feng became the disciple of His Holiness. The responsibilities that must be fulfilled. He was about to fight alongside Gao Feng. It was time for Lin Yuan to tell Gao Feng some things. Thus, Lin Yuan said, "You've been to my manor before. When you came, the Hidden Dragon Lake hadn't been built yet. Right now, at Hidden Dragon Lake, the pavilion on the Sunshine Monarch Lotus is as bright as day. I'm waiting for you at the Hidden Dragon Lake. I've prepared some wine. Previously, when you used the petals of the cinnabar sweet osmanthus to brew some osmanthus wine with low alcohol content. Lin Yuan originally wanted to take the osmanthus wine. But in the end, Lin Yuan did not take the osmanthus wine. Instead, he chose the flame wine that Zhong Zhe had brought over during the gathering. Blazing wine was a strong wine made from fire elemental energy and all kinds of fire elemental spirit materials. When you drink it, you will feel a burning sensation in your throat. In the past, Zhong Zhe had always relied on the flame wine to suppress the bad luck in his body. Lin Yuan took the flame wine and walked to the pavilion at the center of the lake. Sensing Lin Yuan's arrival, Little Black jumped out of the water and pounced at Lin Yuan. Every time Lin Yuan came to find Little Black would get his clothes wet. This time, Lin Yuan had the opportunity to quickly let the source sand precipitate the feathers made of day and night spirit silver. He waved his wings. With a turn, he avoided Little Black's position. After the water droplets on Little Black's body were dry, Lin Yuan landed on Little Black's neck and said to Little Black, "Little Black, I'm going to drink with my friends at the pavilion tonight. You should know your place. Don't keep chasing those angelfish of bliss all over the lake." Little Black heard and said in a soft tone, "Okay, Lin Yuan. You drink at the Hidden Dragon Lake. I'll treat it as you accompanying me. I'll have a good sleep at the bottom of the Hidden Dragon Lake." Standing on Little Black's back, Lin Yuan looked at the beautiful scenery of the Hidden Dragon Lake. The Sunshine Monarch Lotus absorbed enough sunlight. It was as if there was a sun sinking in the lake. In the water, 7 colored angelfish of bliss swam in schools. It was as if there were rainbows on the side of the sun. On the leaves of the Sunshine Monarch Lotus, there were hundreds of pavilions with richly ornamented beams. The pavilions were fragrant with exotic flowers. No matter how one looked at it, it was like a fairyland. Little Black sent Lin Yuan to the pavilion. Lin Yuan, who was standing on the pavilion, didn't wait for long. He saw Gao Feng appear at the edge of the hidden dragon lake. Gao Feng waved his hand at Lin Yuan and didn't need Little Black to pick him up. He waved his hand. He summoned a white hibiscus with a diameter of 3 meters. This white hibiscus was Gao Feng's Fei, breeze hibiscus. Under Lin Yuan's observation, Gao Feng's breeze hibiscus. It had already been upgraded to Diamond X/Fantasy V. It had reached the peak level of the younger generation experts. The leaves of the breeze hibiscus swayed and created a breeze. It blew the high wind precisely in front of Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan noticed that the expression on Gao Feng's face was clearly smiling. But in his eyes, there was an unconcealable pressure. Lin Yuan simply handed over the flame wine in his hand to Gao Feng and said, "If you want to drink, this is the strong wine I prepared for you. Tonight, I will accompany you in this pavilion for the whole night. If you have anything to say, just say it to me." Hearing Lin Yuan's words, Gao Feng reached out and hugged Lin Yuan. Then, he gulped down a mouthful of strong wine. This mouthful of wine made Gao Feng's blood clamor. Gao Feng was usually not a person who was good at expressing his feelings. Even if Gao Feng treated Lin Yuan as a brother, usually, he would never do such an action like hugging. After drinking the wine, Gao Feng took a deep breath. He said to Lin Yuan, "Let me tell you a story. A boy, from birth, has always been in the hands of his grandfather. Whatever he wants, he can get. Although his father is unreasonable, and his mother is also very strict. But, this boy is still able to do as he pleases, and do as he pleases. When this boy was young, he didn't make many friends. When he grew up, he made a few good friends. Because of these friends, this boy suddenly got lucky and became the disciple of an expert. This boy has always disapproved of his father, but now he praises him to the sky every day. This boy is very happy. But one day, this boy wants to gamble with his life for the glory of the Federation and the identity of the expert's disciple." Speaking of this, Gao Feng took another big mouthful of wine. Then he continued. Chapter 16-18. Even though this boy is an adult, he still thinks of himself as a child. You know, when it's on a boy. What does this boy think? Lin Yuan didn't respond to Gao Feng's question. Lin Yuan knew that Gao Feng didn't need someone to talk to him. What Gao Feng needed was to pour his heart out. He was just venting the true emotions that he had been suppressing in his heart. Obviously, the protagonist of Gao Feng's story, it was Gao Feng himself. Gao Feng picked up the jar and gulped down a few mouthfuls. Then, he started coughing violently. He coughed as he spoke. This boy has always been afraid of death. Because this boy knows that if he dies, he will never see this world again. I can't eat delicious food. Can't play in the all-star game. I can't drink with my brother anymore. But when this boy understands that this matter concerns the dignity of the Federation. I don't know what's wrong with this boy, but his blood just keeps surging. He's willing to protect this glory, even if he'll never see the world again, never eat good food, never play in the all-star match, never drink with his good brothers again. This boy is willing to accept everything. Don't you think this boy is stupid? Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan looked at Gao Feng's eyes, which were red from choking on the liquor. She only felt that Gao Feng didn't seem like he was pouring out his heart, but more like he was saying goodbye. As the disciple of Her Holiness, Gao Feng had the responsibility to bear all of this. However, it was not that Gao Feng did not have the opportunity to reject. During the Radiance Hundreds elimination tournament, Gao Feng was a pure support class spirit chi professional. He could find many opportunities to eliminate himself. In this way, everything that happened afterwards would be settled. It had nothing to do with Gao Feng. However, Gao Feng did not choose to do so. No matter how reluctant he was to leave this world, no matter how afraid he was of death, He was also willing to bear all of this. This meant that Gao Feng had a dazzling spirit. Gao Feng's choice left Lin Yuan in his heart. He gave Gao Feng a thumbs up. At that moment, Lin Yuan did not know how to comfort Gao Feng. Lin Yuan summoned Genius and let it tool transformation. Lin Yuan held the silver mask that Genius had transformed into. He gently put it on his face. When Gao Feng saw Lin Yuan, he suddenly summoned his spirit cat. He was completely stunned. After Gao Feng understood his responsibilities, he said, therefore, he treated Black, who was also participating in the Radiance White sequence, as his teammate. Gao Feng was a pure support. When he chose this path, he felt that it was impossible. If Gao Feng wanted to fight, he had to believe in his teammates. After becoming Her Majesty's disciple, Gao Feng's glasses had become taller. Therefore, those who signed up to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence would not be able to do so. Gao Feng searched everywhere. In the end, only Black entered Gao Feng's eyes. Therefore, Gao Feng specially searched the star web. He watched the recording of the battle in the Black Stairway video library. He wanted to study Black's strength. He was thinking about how he could provide the most effective assistance to Black. Gao Feng had watched the battle between Black and Lu Shuang several times. However, Gao Feng had watched that fight many times. He only remembered the phantom of a spirit cat that appeared behind Black. He knew that Black had extremely strong mental attack and defensive abilities. As for the rest, Gao Feng couldn't see anything. Gao Feng had always been troubled by this. Only a few of Black's spiritual creatures were revealed. He didn't even know what Black's Fey was. How was he going to come up with a support plan? The spirit cat phantom that appeared behind Black and the spirit cat that Lin Yuan had summoned. Although they didn't look very similar, they both had 8 tails. Gao Feng didn't have time to think. The spirit cat turned into a mask. After Lin Yuan put it on his face, a name instantly came out of Gao Feng's mouth. Black. Lin Yuan looked at the flabbergasted Gao Feng and nodded. That's right, I am Black. Not only when you drink, but I can also accompany you by your side. When you fight, it's the same. Under Cicada's arrangement, Gao Feng was full of anticipation to contract the Sacred Source Lifeform. In the end, when he learned about the Sacred Source Lifeform's abilities, he was stunned. Gao Feng almost split open on the spot. He was a pure support. Without the ability to attack, he could only passively take a beating. A pure support, not a defense-type spirit chi professional. He could also rely on the phase defense to enter a stalemate with the enemy. If his marrow contract was a combat-type Sacred Source Lifeform, it would be fine. At least he could resist. But what was a pure support-type Sacred Source Lifeform doing? This was also when Gao Feng came to find Lin Yuan. The reason why he was so depressed. Gao Feng had already expected that he would be sacrificed. He was going to fight to the death. Gao Feng cared so much about the type of Sacred Source Lifeform he had contracted. He was afraid that he was trying to protect Hui Yao's dignity. He could only passively take a beating without being able to resist. Instead, it would make Hui Yao lose face. In addition, Gao Feng had come to find Lin Yuan to bid farewell. But now, it had become a teammate. If Lin Yuan was Black, didn't that mean, during the battle, the person he had to support was Lin Yuan? Lin Yuan had been strong in the Evernight Assembly's civil and martial arena competition. Gao Feng had seen it with his own eyes. Gao Feng's heart was filled with a strong sense of confidence. But when he thought of the Sacred Source Lifeform he had contracted, Gao Feng's face fell again. Gao Feng scratched his head. He said with some difficulty, Lin Yuan, my marrow contract Sacred Source Lifeform is too weak. I might drag you down during the battle. I really don't know why Master said that. My sacred source lifeform is the most powerful support-type sacred source lifeform he has ever seen. Hearing Gao Feng's words, Lin Yuan's interest was piqued. As His Majesty, Cicada Cry's vision was not something an ordinary person could compare to. It was the strongest support-type sacred source lifeform that His Majesty Cicada Cry had recognized. It definitely had unparalleled abilities and advantages. Lin Yuan had heard his master, the Moon Empress, mention it before. At present, it was the strongest known support-type sacred source lifeform. It was His Majesty Cicada Cry's Jie Feng. His Majesty Cicada Cry had given it the title of the strongest support-type sacred source lifeform. He had taken it from his sacred source lifeform and placed it on Gao Feng. Gao Feng's marrow contract sacred source lifeform was definitely extraordinary. But why did Gao Feng think that his sacred source lifeform was useless? Would it even drag him down? At that moment, Lin Yuan heard Gao Feng's voice. Lin Yuan, let me show you my sacred source lifeform. Even though neither of us can point to it in battle. Fortunately, my breeze hibiscus and spirit spring lily can help you recover spirit chi. The yellow spring lily can extend the life of your spirit lifeform. As Gao Feng spoke, Lin Yuan saw a crystal box emitting rainbow light. It appeared in front of Gao Feng. Chapter 16-19. The crystal box emitted a rainbow glow and was exceptionally exquisite. A banshee was carved on it. The banshee was using both hands to grab something. At the same time, the banshee was wailing in pain. It was as if the banshee was grabbing something. Something in his body had also been pulled out. It could be said that the carvings on the crystal box were rather strange. But what made Lin Yuan feel strange was, it wasn't the pattern carved on the crystal box. Instead, it was the rainbow glow emitted by the crystal box. The rainbow glow was very similar to the glow emitted by an uncontracted sacred source lifeform. Gao Feng saw Lin Yuan examining his sacred source lifeform. Gao Feng ridiculed. Lin Yuan, this is what you're doing. Master didn't hesitate to use the source of his sacred source lifeform to help me upgrade my sacred source lifeform to 6 stars. I really don't know what Master is thinking. How many of the Freedom Federation's younger generation experts have a sacred source lifeform? Lin Yuan was secretly shocked by Gao Feng's words. His Majesty Cicada Cry was willing to use the source of his sacred source lifeform to upgrade Gao Feng's sacred source lifeform. This meant that Gao Feng's sacred source lifeform definitely had a powerful ability. It was important to note that the sacred source lifeform was depleted. It would take a long time for the sacred source lifeform to recover. His Majesty Cicada Cry had used this method to upgrade Gao Feng's sacred source lifeform star. He didn't have 2 years. His Majesty Cicada Cry's sacred source lifeform would not be able to upgrade its star. Lin Yuan understood from Gao Feng's words. Gao Feng's sacred source lifeform's ability was to target other sacred source lifeforms. Gao Feng clearly didn't know what he would be facing in this battle. What kind of enemy would they be? Lin Yuan was willing to bet that his opponent would be someone with a sacred source lifeform. It would definitely not be lower than the top 3. It might even be more than that. Lin Yuan couldn't help but be even more curious about Gao Feng's sacred source lifeform. Lin Yuan immediately used Morbius True Data. He began to examine Gao Feng's sacred source lifeform. Sacred source name, source family/sacred source species, memory eater music box, sacred source star type, 6 stars, sacred source type, light/soul function frowny face memory magic scissors. Select a sacred source lifeform and cut off the sacred source lifeform's memory of 1 function. During this period, the sacred source lifeform will not be able to use its forgotten functions. Every time its life stage increases, 1 more sacred source lifeform's function can be sealed. Banishing melody, banish oneself from one's memory. At the same time, based on one's life rank, each increase in one's life rank allows one more target to be banished along with the sacred source life form. Lin Yuan was so shocked that his mouth gaped open. He blinked his eyes for a long time. If it wasn't for the fact that he knew Gao Feng very well and knew that he wasn't a Versailles person, Lin Yuan wouldn't have believed him. At that moment, Lin Yuan even suspected Gao Feng. Was he in Versailles now? It could be said that Gao Feng's sacred source life form was the memory-eating music box. It was the bane of all sacred source life forms. Just the first function, the memory magic scissors, was the nightmare of countless sacred source life forms. While others were using sacred source life forms, Gao Feng could use the music box to restrict his opponent. Sacred source life forms below 4-star only had one function. In other words, from the moment Gao Feng obtained the memory-eating music box, Gao Feng could use his sacred source life form to restrict the sacred source life form of others. He could cut off the sacred source life form's memory of its function. Essentially, he could seal off the sacred source life form's function. This function was a little too overpowered. Gao Feng's sacred source life form had reached 6-star. It had reached its growth stage. Gao Feng could use the memory magic scissors function. He could select 2 sacred source life forms at the same time. He could cut off the 2 sacred source life forms' functions separately. The mutual restraint between sacred source life forms was definitely related to the star level. Under normal circumstances, a sacred source life form with a controlling function. It was very difficult to control a sacred source life form with a higher star level than the sacred source life form. But against an opponent of the same level, or against an opponent with a lower star level than the sacred source life form, the memory-eating music box was absolutely invincible. No matter how strong the Freedom Federation's envoy was, a sacred source life form star level could not exceed 6-star. Unless the Freedom Federation also had someone who was willing to harm their own interests, to help their disciple. Gao Feng's sacred source life form did not have any offensive capabilities. But just by using the memory magic scissors function, he could make the sacred source life form forget 2 functions. Even though the sacred source life form had different functions at every stage. But there was always one function that played a central role. After the central function was banned, the sacred source life form's power would be greatly reduced. Lin Yuan's sacred source life form, the sacred sword-wielding queen. As long as the queen's skirt function was banned, the queen had forgotten about the skirt function. The world and laws engraved within the skirt would not be able to be used. Naturally, it could not be used. Sword skills in sacred sword mode could not be used. But that was not the worst part. Most importantly, the second function of the sacred source life form, the music box, was to banish music. If the first function was the memory magic scissors, when facing multiple enemies, it could freely adjust its control over the sacred source life form. It could make the battle style more flexible. That was when the memory-eating music box used banish rhythm. According to the 6-star level, the memory-eating music box was in its second growth stage. It could simultaneously banish 2 sacred source life forms that did not exceed its own star level. It was a typical exchange of 2. If the enemy's sacred source life forms were between 4 stars and 6 stars, Gao Feng would be using his own sacred source life form to exchange for 4 functions of the enemy's sacred source life form. Now, Lin Yuan finally understood. Why would His Majesty Cicada Cry say this? Gao Feng's sacred source life form was the strongest support type sacred source life form. Gao Feng's sacred source life form, the memory-eating music box, was only 6 stars. However, when the memory-eating music box grew again and reached 10 stars, Gao Feng's sacred source life form might not be able to produce a celestial phenomenon. But it could banish 4 sacred source life forms that could produce celestial phenomena at the same time. This sacred source lifeform could not increase Gao Feng's battle power. Instead, it used the most underhanded method to make Gao Feng. It had an irreplaceable strategic significance. In the future, no matter who Gao Feng met, he could confidently say this. My sacred source lifeform is not strong, but my sacred source lifeform is definitely stronger than yours. Lin Yuan patted Gao Feng's shoulder and said, Gao Feng, as His Majesty's disciple, you will eventually have to compete for the Radiance Envoy position. Gao Feng, as His Majesty's disciple, you will eventually have to compete for the Radiance Envoy position. Or become a member of the Radiant Light Knights. Your enemies will be the prodigies of the other Federation in the Myriad States Conference. Do you think it is possible for them not to contract sacred source lifeforms? Lin Yuan tried to explain, and Gao Feng immediately understood. Lin Yuan's words meant. Chapter 1620. After thinking for a while, Gao Feng suddenly felt that his sacred source lifeform, the memory-eating music box, was not that bad. Gao Feng heard Lin Yuan continue to count. You are walking the path of a pure support. If the sacred source lifeform has strong offensive abilities, you will be troubled. Because it is difficult for your sacred source lifeform to match your fighting style. In a team, it will confuse your position. You don't have to worry about that now. Gao Feng felt that Lin Yuan's words were very reasonable. Previously, his thoughts had only burrowed into the competition. Now that he was looking at it from the perspective of the competition, his sacred source lifeform's abilities were really good. After all, any support-type phase abilities could not effectively counter the sacred source lifeform's abilities. But now, he could. Gao Feng suddenly felt a surge of confidence. As a pure support-type spirit Qi professional, Gao Feng had been unable to participate in the S tournament. It was because he could not find suitable teammates. Anyone who tried to rope in his teammates was too trashy. They could not match his strength. Gao Feng had suddenly broadened his horizons and came into contact with Zhong Zhe, Gu Lang, and the others. He was also afraid that he would be a burden to His Holiness's disciples, who were on the same level as him. He would make others feel that he was trash. Gao Feng had been in a state of lack of confidence for the past few months. Gao Feng fell into such a state. It was because of the Radiant Sequence 100 selection. Wuxia won the martial arena. Lin Yuan and Zhong Zhe participated in the civil and martial arena. The strength they displayed was too shocking. Gao Feng, who had regained his confidence, wanted to pull Lin Yuan for a few drinks. At that moment, he heard Lin Yuan say, "The day after tomorrow, we will go on stage." Zhong Zhe and Gu Lang should have returned from their training in the Abyss world. And he seems to be in the royal capital recently. Lu Jie can also return to the Return from Faraway Manor tomorrow night. I think the few of us should have a small gathering. As he spoke, Lin Yuan told his plan to Gao Feng. From the moment he knew that he would be fighting alongside Lin Yuan, Gao Feng no longer had any fear in his heart. Now that he heard that Lin Yuan wanted to lead the other His Holiness disciples into the competition, to compete with the younger generation of the Freedom Federation, Gao Feng could not help but feel a surge of hot blood in his heart. As a pure support, the more teammates he had, the more valuable he would be. Gao Feng couldn't bring out his greatest value by just assisting one person. At the same time, he would become the first target of the enemy. A few more strong teammates could better protect Gao Feng's safety. Through Lin Yuan's information, Gao Feng knew. On the other side were 3 people favored by the Freedom Federation. These 3 people definitely had sacred source lifeforms. In that case, his sacred source lifeform, the memory-eating music box, it could finally be put to good use. Gao Feng nodded. All right. I'll contact Gu Lang and Zhong Zhe now. But honestly speaking, Zhongzhe and Gu Lang have always been at odds with an he. Is it really okay to find Anha? Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan gently shook his head. Any reasonable person, even if they didn't get along with each other before, gathering together at such a time, there was no reason not to deal with him. The hostility between Zhongzhe, Gu Lang and an he. They were merely opponents of the younger generation. There was just some competition in terms of resources. At such a time, if he didn't go and mess up this situation, Zhongzhe and Gu Lang might take the initiative to invite an he over. On the Freedom Federation side, they would send the younger generation to stir up trouble. On the Radiance Federation side, the younger generation would naturally take over. While the Freedom Federation was plotting against the Radiance Federation, the Radiance Federation would not sit still and wait for death. Just like how those who want to kill will always be killed, this was an unchanging principle since ancient times. Gao Feng called Gu Lang and Zhongzhe. On the other hand, Lin Yuan dialed an he's number. At that moment, and he was beside an elegant-looking middle-aged man. Master, I still need a lot of pure water elemental energy and earth elemental energy. Only then can my suppressing mountain kuei and awakening hibernation drake improve further. Upon hearing an he's words, the elegant-looking man in front of an he put down the book in his hand. A trace of helplessness appeared on his face. A trace of helplessness appeared on his face. He was going to the Imperial Court's meeting tomorrow. At such a time, how could he still trouble Chef Supreme, Bamboo Monarch, and the Moon Empress? To help produce high-purity heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls? Although he was the Radiance Majesty and was powerful, but in the preparation of these high-end resources, he still had to find the 3 Class 5 Creation Masters who were also Majesties for help. Ji Changdeng could only say to an he. Before the Radiance 100 sequence, your suppressing mountain kuei and awakening hibernation drake should not have a chance to improve. Speaking of this, Ji Changdeng thought of old Gu, who was beside an he. He reported the situation to him. Ji Changdeng asked an he. I heard that you had a conflict with the Moon Empress disciple. Is there such a thing? Upon hearing that, and he shrunk his neck. As a disciple, and he understood Ji Changdeng's feelings for the Moon Empress the best. And he felt that between him and Lin Yuan, it could be considered that no discord, no concord. After exchanging contact information, they should already be considered as friends. Therefore, and he said to Ji Changdeng, Master, the Moon Empress disciple is called Lin Yuan. Master, the Moon Empress disciple is called Lin Yuan. We are friends now. Upon hearing that, Ji Changdeng suddenly felt that his disciple, and he was even more shameless than when he chased after the Moon Empress. Was this something that a human could say? You guys became friends after a fight? Then I will fight a few more times with the Moon Empress. Will the Moon Empress fall in love with me? At that moment, an he's phone rang. Usually, an he's phone wouldn't ring once in a day or two. This was because an he had never told anyone his phone number. Now, he suddenly heard his phone ring. And he picked it up and looked at it. His eyes suddenly lit up. He pointed the phone at Ji Changdeng and said, Hey, Lin Yuan is calling me. Upon hearing that, Ji Changdeng suddenly felt that fighting seemed to be a feasible way to promote their relationship. And he picked up the phone. He heard that Lin Yuan wanted to find him and come to the manor for a gathering. Talk about the Radiance 100 sequence selection process. Talk about the Freedom Federation's envoy. And he waved his hand at Ji Changdeng. He didn't care that Lin Yuan's appointment was tomorrow afternoon. Taking advantage of the night, he went to the return from faraway manor according to the address given by Lin Yuan. Along the way, and he had a smile on his face. This was the first time and he was invited by a friend that he recognized. Damn, the feeling of being a guest at a friend's house. It's really not bad. And he, who suddenly thought of something, had a sharp glint in his smiling eyes. Instant Beast Evolution Quotient. Please bookmark this site so that you can read it online the next time there is an update. Starting to update the mobile version of Do 5. Chapter 1621. And he started from the moment the Freedom Federation's envoy arrived at the Radiance sect. He had been suppressing the killing intent in his heart. As long as he had the chance to play. And he decided to use it against Lin Yuan. It was a trump card that he had always kept at the bottom of the box. Kill to your heart's content. The role model in He's heart had always been his senior brother. He was now the third Radiance envoy. It could be said that he had always been working hard to become a Radiance envoy. And he knew that Lin Yuan would definitely look for Zhongzhe and Gu Lang for this meeting. And he had snatched a sacred source life form from Gu Lang not long ago. Although this sacred source life form had been lost to Lin Yuan by he in the end, however, the grudge between him and Gu Lang had been formed. In fact, it wasn't just this one grudge. Previously, he, Gu Lang, and Zhongzhe had also formed many grudges. And he was a hot-tempered person. Most of the time, he was the one who took the initiative to provoke others. This time, he decided not to provoke Zhongzhe and Gu Lang. When it was time to get down to business, he had to get down to business. The moment he arrived at the entrance of Gue Yuan Manor. This immediately attracted the attention of Shueshua, Baifeng, Lan Lian, and the others who had been staying in the manor. Fortunately, the Mother of Bloodbath knew he. Back then, when the Mother of Bloodbath had awakened its favored spirit bloodline. And he also helped the Mother of Bloodbath resist the spying marine lifeforms in the distant sea. Therefore, it was reasonable for the Mother of Bloodbath to owe he a favor. The Mother of Bloodbath decided to personally go to the entrance of the manor to pick up he. Seeing the Mother of Bloodbath, he's eyes lit up. Lin Yuan asked me to attend the banquet. Take me to see him. Upon hearing he's words, the Mother of Bloodbath gave him a strange look. Why is Lin Yuan inviting you to a banquet so late at night? Moreover, wasn't Lin Yuan drinking and chatting with Gao Feng at the hidden Wirm lake tonight? Even if Lin Yuan wants to talk to you, it should be during the day, right? Lin Yuan and he knew each other anyway. The Mother of Bloodbath said. Let's go. I'll bring you to Lin Yuan. It was he's first time coming to the Return from Faraway Manor. As soon as he entered the manor, before he could even sigh at the layout of the Return from Faraway Manor, the hidden dragon lake in the distance was as bright as day. The Mother of Bloodbath brought he to the hidden Wirm lake. Gao Feng and Lin Yuan immediately discovered he, who had followed the Mother of Bloodbath. Upon seeing he, Lin Yuan raised his eyebrows. Gao Feng had just hung up the phone with Zhongzhe and Gu Lang. He had just finished calling he. Why didn't he come here now? At that moment, Lin Yuan saw he waving his hand at him and saying, Lin Yuan, if you want to drink, bring me along. It was very difficult to get close to he. But when it came to people that he acknowledged, he would become very familiar with them. Just like when he faced the stormy wave guard Captain Wang Su. And he directly said, Lin Yuan is my brother. Lin Yuan knew what kind of person he was. He said with a smile. If it's wine, I'll have as much as you want. Let me introduce you to a new friend, Gao Feng. Anha's contracted Fei, the awakening hibernation drake, had the ability to transform water and soil. And he raised his foot and stepped on the surface of the hidden dragon lake. The lake water under his feet instantly condensed into a piece of land that was just big enough for he to step on. He sent he all the way to the pavilion of the Sun Reflection King Lotus. When he's feet left this piece of land, the condensed land on the lake's surface. These earth elements were once again turned into water elements. This kind of change shocked several nearby angelfish of bliss to flee in all directions. It made the rainbow underwater become meandering. Gao Feng just listened to Lin Yuan's plan. He knew that he, who came now, was the disciple of His Holiness the Eternal Lamp. At the same time, it was also very likely that he would be his teammate in 2 days. So, Gao Feng took the initiative to greet he. He reached out to he. But he's next move immediately made Gao Feng embarrassed. And he just nodded to Gao Feng. Not only did he not shake Gao Feng's hand, but he didn't even look away from Lin Yuan. At that moment, Gao Feng only felt that he was really asking for a beating. Gao Feng finally understood now why Zhongzhe and Gu Lang didn't like he. They were all disciples of His Holiness. What was there to pretend for? Zhongzhe, Gu Lang, and Lin Yuan were not only spirit chi professionals but also creation masters. I haven't seen anyone better at pretending than you. Gao Feng rolled his eyes, picked up the wine glass, and said to Lin Yuan. Come on, Lin Yuan, let's drink. Just now, I remember you clearly made an appointment for tomorrow afternoon. But in the end, someone came uninvited. When he heard Gao Feng's words, he frowned tightly. A purple worm had appeared on his shoulder. Lin Yuan knew that he, Gu Lang, and Zhongzhe didn't get along. But he didn't expect that he and Gao Feng also had a conflict. In the face of this situation, Lin Yuan only felt a headache. They were all friends, and it was really not good to say anything. At that moment, Lin Yuan only heard he said. I came to find Lin Yuan this time to talk business. I don't have time to speak sarcastically at such a juncture like some people. Gao Feng heard his words. He only felt that his blood was surging in an instant. Are you a fucking green tea? Why do you talk like tea? I was the one who greeted you first, and I even extended my hand. But you're putting on airs. On the contrary, a single sentence from her made me sound sarcastic. You even summoned your fays. Who's afraid of who? My fays are all support type and can't beat you. But Lin Yuan can't watch me get beaten. Gao Feng was angry. Lin Yuan only felt that his head was a little swollen. When Zhongzhe and Gu Lang came, if in his current attitude, what kind of storm would it cause? The conflict between Gao Feng and he, in Lin Yuan's opinion. The cause was because of he. So Lin Yuan's face darkened, and he said to he very seriously. At this juncture where everyone needs to be united, I hope that we all, regardless of what happened before, we can all be friends. And he, say hello to Gao Feng. When Zhongzhe and Gu Lang come, don't have conflicts with each other. If people can't unite at this time, then I don't think I'm qualified to take the Radiance Envoy as a goal to strive for. Hearing Lin Yuan's words, and he was stunned. He just felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. But he was not an unreasonable person. Plus, Lin Yuan was an acknowledged friend of he. So he carefully pondered Lin Yuan's words. After thinking about it, his frowning brows stretched out. He turned his head and said to Gao Feng. My name is he. I'm not used to having physical contact with strangers. We've met today. Gao Feng had roughly guessed what kind of person he was. Gao Feng didn't care about his attitude just now. At this time, facing other His Holiness's disciples, Lin Yuan being able to stand up for him made Gao Feng feel quite touched. Chapter 1622. Gao Feng said to he. Baidu search, it's okay, I'm a pure support type spirit chi professional. I don't have much combat ability alone. If I'm lucky enough to fight alongside you, I hope you can protect my safety as much as possible. I'll also go to support the power offense type spirit chi professional in the team. Like Lin Yuan, Black's identity was a healing type spirit chi professional. But in the previous civil and martial duels, Lin Yuan didn't use his healing ability at all. Instead, he relied on his physical body like a monster. He fought with Zhongzai's Diamond X/Fantasy V Source Fire Reincarnation Flame Beast. And he also flaunted himself as a healing-type spirit Qi professional. But he had previously shown his strength in public. He had to be good at defense. That was why Gao Feng would say such a thing. As for what he said, he didn't want to have physical contact with strangers. Gao Feng didn't care. He just thought that his EQ was relatively low. It was understandable that Gao Feng didn't want to have physical contact with strangers. Seeing that he could do this, Lin Yuan nodded. And he knew how to take a step back and not take the initiative to provoke. After Zhongzai and Gu Lang came. At least it wouldn't make the atmosphere too stiff. At this moment, Lin Yuan thought. Previously, he wanted to occupy a large whale fall for the sake of the large whale fall. The pure water elemental energy it contained. Back then, he wanted the water elemental energy in the large whale fall. It was obvious that he wanted to upgrade his phase. The awakening hibernation drake could transform water and earth. For there was no difference between obtaining water elemental energy and obtaining earth elemental energy. Most of his phase were mainly earth elemental. If he wanted to obtain pure earth elemental energy in nature, it was far from easy to obtain pure water elemental energy. Therefore, it was not so much that he wanted water elemental energy. Rather, what he really lacked was earth elemental energy. Whether it was pure earth elemental energy or water elemental energy, Lin Yuan had plenty of them. At this juncture, his strength could be improved a little. It was always a good thing. Therefore, Lin Yuan asked has your awakening hibernation drake bloodline been improved? He shook his head and said. Unless I can encounter another large whale fall, the awakening hibernation nightmare dragon's bloodline will evolve. At the very least, I'll need close to 1,000 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls of the fixed floating life or earth element and above. As he spoke, he could not help but feel a little worried. His master wasn't a creation master. He wanted to obtain so many heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls of high purity. It was a little difficult for him. Firstly, the Moon Empress definitely could not be begged. Moreover, his master had some conflicts with Chef Supreme and Bamboo Monarch. Therefore, if he wanted to obtain high-class creation master's resources, he would have to do so. It would always take a little more effort than the other majesties. Hearing this, Li Su pondered for a moment. Then he asked again. If I let you obtain the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls you need, Roland said. I want to increase my strength and transform the phase bloodline. How long will it take? When the elemental well appeared in the Spirit Lock spatial zone, Lin Yuan could already concoct elemental pearls that were comparable to the goddess Cheyenne. It contained even purer elemental energy. Now, the elemental well could already produce a small half-bowl of well water. When Zhongzai's bloodline of Desolation Fei, the Burning Sky Centipede, obtained purer fire elemental energy than the original body, there was a chance for the bloodline to evolve again. Lin Yuan did not immediately concoct the spirit fluid with the well water in the elemental well for Zhongzai. It was because the Burning Sky Centipede's bloodline wanted to evolve. It was not a small project that could be completed in a day or two. Therefore, Lin Yuan used the well water in the elemental well. He concocted pure fire elemental energy for Zhongzai. After the Radiance 100 sequence selection, the battle with the Freedom Federation, there was no use. If he could not do it before the Radiance 100 sequence began, it would allow his phase bloodline to evolve and enhance its strength. Lin Yuan did not need to give thousands of heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls to he. When he heard Lin Yuan's words, he did not hesitate at all. He directly told Lin Yuan about his situation. As long as there are enough heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls, My bloodline of desolation Fey, the suppressing mountain Kuei, and other Feys, including the awakening hibernation centipede. My bloodline can also be evolved. The suppressing mountain Kuei's bloodline evolution may be a little slower, and it will take a whole day. The other Feys will be able to complete the transformation within 2 hours. Hearing Enhe's words, Lin Yuan took out a wooden box and threw it to Enhe. Inside this wooden box, there are 1,000 Earth attribute heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls that contain fixed floating life. It just so happens that you have time now. Go and improve your strength first. If your strength can be completely improved by tomorrow evening, let's get together again and talk. The Spirit Lock spatial zone had undergone a series of evolutions. The production of heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls was now astonishingly fast. The wind speed rapid antelope was the little housekeeper in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. These heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls of various types and pearls were divided into different categories. There were 1,000 heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls of the same type and pearls. They were placed in a wooden box. The heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls of the goddess Xian had only been produced for a few days. There were more than 20 more in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. After that, the heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls of the goddess Xian. For Lin Yuan, they were just mortal grade. Enhe's master was not a creation master. Therefore, Enhe understood the preciousness of high-class creation master resources. This was also the reason why Enhe had been competing with Gu Lang and Zhong Zhe for resources. Now, Lin Yuan suddenly threw such a large amount of resources to him. Enhe felt that in the whole world, except for his master and senior brother, there was probably no one who would treat him better than Lin Yuan. Enhe stared at Lin Yuan for a long time. Then he drank the wine in the glass in one gulp. I'll go back now and come back after my Feys have been upgraded. Lin Yuan said with a smile, it's too troublesome to go back and forth. It's too troublesome to go back and forth. I still have space here. Why don't you stay here and upgrade your Feys? You don't have to save these heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls. If it's not enough, just tell me. I still have some here. At this moment, and he didn't know what to say to thank him. Gao Feng, who was at the side, saw the way and he looked at Lin Yuan. He said hurriedly, go and upgrade your Feys. When upgrading Feys, there might be unexpected situations that might occur. What if one day is not enough? And he was arranged by Lin Yuan to stay in the Dome Guild Club behind the manor. After the approval of the Federation, the sign of the Dome Guild Club had been hung up. Gao Feng, who understood this, secretly said to Lin Yuan, brother, is your guild club still short of people? Instant Beast Evolution Quotient. Please bookmark this site so that you can read it online the next time there is an update. Read the first complete book in advance. The mobile version is the fastest. In any case, he was already so familiar with Lin Yuan. He wanted to talk to Lin Yuan more so that he could go on stage a few more times. In Gao Feng's heart, there was not much difference between a substitute and a main player. When Lin Yuan heard Gao Feng's words, he went silent for a long time. Lin Yuan had originally wanted to wait until after the night assembly ended. He invited Gao Feng to join the Dome Club. But at that time, Gao Feng had just become the disciple of Her Holiness and was quite busy. Lin Yuan wanted to wait until the Radiance 100 sequence test was over. Then, he would ask Gao Feng for his opinion. Unexpectedly, Gao Feng found out that he had a club guild. He actually took the initiative to ask to join. However, he was a little hesitant. What Lin Yuan was hesitating about was not whether he should add Gao Feng or not. They weren't sure if they should participate in the S tournament or not. He felt that with his current strength, he would be able to participate in the S tournament. This was too much of a bully. And in the previous S tournament, There had never been a situation where the disciple of His Eminence had participated in the tournament. Lin Yuan asked Gao Feng in reply. I originally wanted to invite you to join the Dome Club. Getting you to join the Dome Club Guild is easy. Currently, our guild has me, Lu Jia, Listen, and Chu Ci. As well as Zhang Xiaobai, Xin Ning, Tan Ran, and Lu Pinru, who were previously in the Extreme Guild Club. Chu Ci and the other 4 are members of the reserve team. Do you think it's appropriate for us to participate in the S tournament? Lin Yuan's words stunned Gao Feng. That's right. He was now the disciple of His Holiness. During the Radiance 100 sequence selection, everyone in the Radiance Federation would know his identity. It didn't seem appropriate for him to participate in the S tournament after that. Thinking about this, Gao Feng suddenly felt a bit unwilling. Why can't His Holiness's disciple participate in the S tournament? The Guild Alliance didn't have such a clear rule. Yes, I am the disciple of His Holiness, but I am only 23 years old. The Guild Alliance's rule was that the Radiance Federation's younger generation members below the age of 30 were allowed to join the Guild Alliance. I can participate in the S tournament. Basically, the popular members of the S tournament retired at the age of 30. Take Long Tao, Shi Su, and the others for example. Long Tao and Shi Su were star members of the S tournament. As the top members of the Radiance 100 sequence, Long Tao and Shi Su could participate. What is His Holiness's disciple lacking? If he really wanted to fight one-on-one, Long Tao and Shi Su could pick one at random. He couldn't beat them. Thus, Gao Feng said, Brother, I think we can do it. Brother, I think we can do it. Our age is right there. Why can't we participate if our age is suitable? I'm 23 years old this year, and I can still play in the S tournament for 7 more years. Lin Yuan, it won't be a problem for you to play for 12 to 13 years. The S tournament has always been those few Class A club guilds. They take turns to win and rule the entire S tournament. If those club guilds can do it, our Dome Club can do it too. With you and Chu Ci participating, our team's average age is the lowest. It's time for the S tournament to change and bring some new passion. Gao Feng clearly expressed to Lin Yuan his desire to participate in the S tournament. Lin Yuan previously felt that it was bullying to let him participate in the S tournament now. However, it didn't seem necessary not to. Firstly, his age met the registration standards. Secondly, Zhang Xiaobai, Lu Pinru, Tan Ran, and Xin Ning had been training non-stop in recent months. Their goals were all on the S tournament's arena. The Dome Club did not participate in the S tournament. As for Zhang Xiaobai, Xin Ning, Lu Pinru, and Tan Ran, Lin Yuan couldn't explain at all. Therefore, Lin Yuan said, Okay. I'll participate. When the Radiance 100 sequence selection is over, everything will be calm. Confirm the Dome Club's last main member. Let's go and register. Let Zhang Xiaobai, Xin Ning, Lu Pinru, and Tan Ran fight in the elimination round first. Get the round-robin qualification first. In Lin Yuan's opinion, given Zhang Xiaobai's strength, it would be easy to pass the elimination round. Zhang Xiaobai, Lu Pinru, Xin Ning, and Tan Ran might have only comprehended one willpower rune. However, they were all B-rank spirit Qi professionals. Even Lu Pinru, who was previously a C-rank spirit Qi professional. She had also made a breakthrough in the past few months after living in the Return from Faraway Manor. Chapter 1624. Therefore, the 4 of them were mainly fighting phase. Thanks to God Hongshan's help, they had all reached Platinum level 10. He was already a B-rank spirit Qi professional before using the astrology Ji Tan's pollen rolling. This was the limit of what he could achieve. After hearing Lin Yuan's words, he decided to register. Gao Feng patted Lin Yuan's shoulder and said. Lin Yuan, be serious. My dream since I was young has finally come true. Brother, thanks. Lin Yuan smiled at Gao Feng. There's nothing to thank me for. Others don't take a support class spirit chi professional like you seriously. But in our team, you're a treasure. Lin Yuan and Gao Feng had nothing to do at the moment. He did not have to be like an he, who was in a hurry to improve his strength after obtaining resources. At this moment, Lin Yuan and Gao Feng were in a daze. They had all reached their best state of preparation for battle. At dusk, Zhongzhe and Gu Lang arrived first. Lu Jie was also in Zhongzhe. He returned not long after Gu Lang arrived. Unexpectedly, and he came out of his closed-door training in advance. After the six of them greeted each other, they sat around the pavilion in the middle of the hidden dragon lake with solemn expressions. Xue Shua, Bai Feng, and Lan Lian looked at the center of the hidden dragon lake, where a few youths were having a discussion. He thought to himself. This conversation, no matter how one looked at it, had the flavor of a younger version of the royal court. These 6 young men could definitely be called the Radiant sect's top prodigies. There were only 5 Radiance envoys. Hui Yao, that old man, had another direct relative. This direct relative was destined to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence selection. Therefore, not all 6 of them could become Radiance envoys. But even if he did not become a Radiance envoy, these 6 youths would definitely become Hui Yao's majesties in the future. Protect Hui Yao's side. With such an outstanding younger generation, Hui Yao's future was shining brightly. The wind was always high up, bitterly cold. It was still a warm March on the ground. The apricot and peach blossoms bloomed. However, the strong currents in the sky could easily cut through iron plates. The Radiance Empire's upper echelons held a meeting for 2 days. Lin Yuan and the others were preparing for battle. However, this year's Radiance 100 sequence test was much livelier than the previous years. During the previous Radiance 100 sequence assessments, they were all competing within the Radiance Sacred Hall. Ordinary citizens could not see the Radiance 100 sequence assessment process. He could only see the 10 people who had been selected. Go to the Radiance 100 sequence, the original sequence members from 91 to 100. A showdown. But even so, in previous years, the liveliness of this day far exceeded that of the S tournament. On the usual day of the competition, only the finals of the S tournament and the All-Star competition. Only then would it be on par with the Radiance 100 sequences final selection. However, the Radiance 100 sequences selection had undergone a reform. This year was the first time in history that the Radiance 100 sequence selection had been moved to the Star Web. It was broadcasted live on the Star Web. During the selection process, as long as one was a Radiant citizen who could access the Star Web, they would be able to participate. He could see everything. The participants of the Radiance 100 sequence selection were usually chosen by the 36 major cities' city lords. In other words, they were the city seedlings. Chu Ci, for example, was in Redbud City. He was then designated as a member of the Redbud 100 sequence by the Lord of Redbud City, Ling Xiao. These 100 seedlings selected by the big cities were not well known in the other big cities. But in the city, they were all well-known geniuses. It represented the glory of the city. This caused many people in every big city to fight madly. The 100 sequence selected by the main cities. As early as a month ago, when the 100 sequence of the major cities had been selected, the major cities were already bustling with activity. Apart from these 100 sequence members selected by the big cities, many of them went through the Guild Alliance's channels. Every year, the Guild Alliance would also recommend suitable and powerful guild members to the Radiance Sacred Hall. These prodigies from the major guilds had the opportunity to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence selection. Apart from that, there were also people like Lin Yuan. They had a certain reputation and signed up for it. The Radiance Sacred Hall's control of the quota was extremely strict. Therefore, there were usually only about 10,000 Radiance prodigies who could compete on the same stage every year. However, this year, it was conducted on the star web. Therefore, the control of strength was much more relaxed. In order to encourage the younger generation to understand the differences in the world and find the motivation to move forward. Those who were under 20 years old and had silver phase. They were all allowed to participate in the test. Those who were between 20 and 30 years old and had gold phase. They were also selected. Of course, these were the prerequisites for all the selections. The Radiance Sacred Hall had to investigate this person's character and background. This was also the tone set by the Radiance Sacred Hall's discussions for the Radiance 100 sequence selection. On the star web, there was a special team that designed the selection's virtual venue. It was designed to be a 1,000 square kilometer land. There were some dimensional rifts in this land. All the people who participated in the Radiance 100 sequence selection would be immediately thrown into the interior of the venue. This kind of test made the original arena duel more comprehensive. The arena duel only tested one's combat ability. However, this kind of test could test one's combat ability, as well as their ability to adapt to the situation. The ability to survive in the wild and adapt. As well as combat wisdom. There were even interpersonal skills. These abilities were used to show a person's strength. It might not be as direct as martial strength, but it was extremely necessary. This allowed healing-type spirit chi professionals to appear in the Radiance 100 sequence in a larger proportion. In the wild, it was always easier for a team to survive to the end than a solo fight. Moreover, in a difficult situation, the people in the team were in a competitive relationship with each other. It was often able to see through a person's character. The Radiance 100 sequence test belonged to the Radiance Legacy. Their Majesties had to be serious about this reform. In addition, Mystic Moon's strength had broken through and the star web had been upgraded. It also perfected the venue of the Radiance 100 sequence test. And the broadcast. At this moment, everyone on the star web was discussing this matter enthusiastically in the forums and groups. Even Lin Yuan's purchase with No Loss Stores fan club was no exception. At this moment, in the Radiance Sacred Hall, the old man who was inspecting the assessment venue. An elegant-looking man appeared behind him. The old man turned around and said after seeing who it was. Changdeng, why are you in the mood to come to the Radiance Sacred Hall at this time? Do you want to check out the test site with me? To be honest, this place is really well designed. The dimensional rift opens in one go. The second one is that it will take 72 hours for the dimensional rift to completely open. Only after 3 days of examination will these little fellows be able to reveal their true nature. Ji Changdeng curled his lips when he heard that. And the old man usually seemed the most affable. But this heart was simply an exquisite mechanical box. Instant Beast Evolution Quotient. Please bookmark this site so that you can read it online the next time there is an update. Read the first complete book in advance. The mobile version is the fastest. Chapter 1625. There were a lot of ingenuity in the exquisite machine box. The reform of the Radiance 100 sequence test. It was suggested by the Moon Empress. But in the end, the real design. It was almost all done by the old man, Lu Wencheng. Even the ratio of the virtual battlefield and dimensional rifts. And the type of dimensional rifts. It was also Lu Wencheng's suggestion. The Radiance 100 sequence test that could be completed in 1 day. It was forcefully changed to 3 days. But it was undeniable that a person's temperament. The more dangerous it was, the more it was impossible to hide. During the test, a person could disguise their temperament as much as they wanted. They could manage their attitude. Mystic Moon, who was in charge of Star Web's spiritual perception, had an increase in strength. With the upgrade of Star Web, the perception ability of the entire Star Web had been greatly enhanced. Now, they were injured in the Star Web duel. It was the same feeling as when they were injured in reality. During these few days, many people were climbing the tower and dueling with the celestial stairway. They realized this. Fortunately, Star Web could adjust its own perception ability. It was adjusted to 10%, even if they were seriously injured. It was difficult to feel the weakness of the body. However, those Star Web dual streamers, for the live streaming effect, and to increase the popularity of the live streaming room, many people adjusted their perception to 100%. This caused Star Web live streamers to be in a duel. They could no longer be as calm as before. Although they were defeated and died in Star Web, they were still facing themselves in reality. There was no impact. However, they could truly be in Star Web. They could experience the feeling of blood and life flowing out of their wounds. This caused all the Star Web live streamers to be in a duel. They didn't dare to be careless. This was because no one wanted to experience the feeling of being killed. Those Star Web live streamers who couldn't bear it could only lower their perception. However, when the audience was watching the duel, there was another kind of joy. They liked to see the streamers grimace after being injured. This caused all the Star Web live streamers to have the most comments in their live streaming rooms. They all adjusted their perception to 100%. There were even many second-tier Star Web live streamers. Under the guise of increasing the pain to 100%, he got a little angry. In less than 2 days, the Star Web live streamers reached a consensus. If they didn't adjust the pain to 100%, the number of viewers in the live stream would be reduced by at least half. The sensory function would be added to the Star Web. In fact, this was also the result of the discussion between His Holiness. In the Radiance Federation, a Class 6 Abyss Dimensional Rift opened. Every Radiant Spirit Chi professional could go to the Abyss to train and develop. Hui Yao and the Freedom Federation began to wrestle again. A new era had arrived. In this great era, Spirit Chi professionals had to be courageous. The 100% realistic feeling allowed every Star Web duel to take place. It had become a true life and death struggle. This was tantamount to a training exercise for the entire nation. At the moment, the sensory function could still be weakened. At this moment, most of the Star Web netizens were shocked. They were still happy that they could watch Star Web streamers grimace in pain every day. But these people did not know. The royal court had already passed a decision. That was after the Radiance 100 sequence ended. Only those who had entered the aging age group. Only then could he lower the Star Web perception by 60%. Everyone else's Star Web perception would be automatically adjusted to 100%. Can't think lower. This made the Star Web truly become a second world. A second world where Spirit Chi professionals could be reborn infinitely. Ji Changdeng shook his head. Wen Cheng, I don't have the mood to look at the layout of the venue. Anyway, with you in charge of the layout, these little fellows will definitely suffer again. 100,000 square kilometers, 20-dimensional rifts. 3 days. Not to mention 3 days, even 1.5 days. The alien beast tide will be able to spread to any location in the venue. Wen Cheng, do you want to find heroism in this? Or do you want to find the bad habits of people? The old man called Wen Cheng heard this. He said to Ji Changdeng seriously, heroism. Heroism, there's nothing to see in this Radiance 100 sequence. Black and Cicada Cry's disciple, Gao Feng, will definitely be able to stand out. Do you still remember what Cicada Cry said during the royal court meeting? Cicada Cry said that his sacred source life form, intent dispelling wind, is no longer the strongest support type sacred source life form. It's his disciples. It can make Cicada Cry change his usual low-key style. How strong do you think Gao Feng's sacred source lifeform is? Black and Gao Feng will still have to fight for the Radiance 100 Sequences reputation. They are the true heroes of this competition. As for the bad habits, we will definitely see many of them in this contest. Ji Changdeng nodded in agreement. People wanted to achieve a certain goal, such as attacking their original teammates at a critical moment. It was a method. But if they did this, it could be said that they had the bad habits. The contest space was filled with danger. People did not have a chance to sleep. They did not sleep for 3 days and 3 nights. In a state of mental exhaustion, they would also do many subconscious actions. In the Radiant Sacred Hall, there had been some people who had not been inspected properly. In terms of quality, Lu Wencheng had looked down on them. But now, they had changed the selection method. Such a person would never appear in the Radiance 100 sequence again. Ji Changdeng had come to Lu Wencheng for official business. He took a step forward and said to Lu Wencheng, "The current Radiance envoys are training outside." However, the other party sent a freedom envoy. The leading girl of the Azure Federation, and also the current generation's 4th Azure envoy. Therefore, the old man decided to call Yifan back. Yifan will hold the fort. Ji Changdeng pondered for a moment and said, Yifan will strengthen the desolate bloodline Fei in the secret desolate realm. This time, it is inevitable that he will be behind the other 4 in terms of progress. You should be the one who suggested it. Ji Changdeng nodded in agreement. Yifan is a power offense-type spirit chi professional that focuses on defense. In terms of positioning, he is more suitable to hold the fort than the other 4. Ji Changdeng mentioned Lu Yifan. His words were filled with pride. Lu Yifan was Ji Changdeng's eldest disciple and Enhe's senior brother. Compared to Enhe, he always stayed at home and had a strange temper. There was no doubt that Ji Changdeng valued Lu Yifan more. But in terms of doting, Enhe was the youngest disciple. Ji Changdeng doted on Enhe more than Lu Yifan. Lu Wencheng said, "In the Radiance 100 sequence selection 1 year later, your youngest disciple, Enhe, might be able to be selected. However, in the 10,000 Nations Convention 2 years later, we still need to rely on the current generation of Radiance envoys to show off their combat power. The generation selected 1 year later will be used as a substitute. Follow them to broaden your horizons." Instant Beast Evolution Quotient. Please bookmark this site so that you can read it online the next time there is an update. Read the first complete book in advance. The mobile version was updated the fastest. Chapter 1626. Ji Changdeng nodded in agreement. From Ji Changdeng's perspective, the age difference between the 2 Radiance envoys was 3 years. There was no comparison at all. After all, the Radiance envoys were chosen from every generation. They were all the strongest people of the current generation. In 1 year, he was a few steps away. Ji Changdeng came to find Lu Wencheng to ask him to arrange the seating arrangements. Plus Lu Yifan's position. The Radiance envoys represented the younger generation of Radiance. His position could be on the same level as His Holiness. In terms of authority, there was almost no difference between him and Her Majesty. The changes in the perception of the Star Web were a matter that concerned all the citizens of the Star Web. However, the popularity of this topic. However, it was firmly suppressed by the topic of the Radiance 100 sequence test. Ever since Lu Shuang had a public duel with Black and lost to him, he thought that his popularity would drop. Who would have thought that he would become even more popular than before? This gave Lu Shuang a better understanding of Black. What kind of enthusiasm did he have? During this time, Lu Shuang had been observing Black's movements. It could be said that ever since the public duel with Yi Futian had become Black. After that, he never appeared on Star Web again. He didn't even participate in the post-match interview. As Black's exclusive reporter, Tian Ningning did not publish any private interviews. This made Lu Shuang realize that Black did not care at all. His popularity on Star Web. But even so, Black was still so popular. It was enough to explain. What kind of charm does Black have? Lu Shuang felt that Black's personality was charming. Most of it came from Black's sense of mystery. Lu Shuang thought for a long time about Black's mysteriousness. He found that there was no way to imitate it. This was because Black's mysteriousness came from the miracles it had created one after another. The Star Web Tower won 100 matches and entered the Celestial Stairway. The Heaven Stairway winning streak entered the palace. He also occupied the first place on the Stairway streak leaderboard. He had squeezed out the Radiance Envoy, who was originally ranked first on the Celestial Stairway's consecutive wins list. Black's innate gift would only make him more mysterious in the future. He also knew what Black's contracted phase were until now. No one knew. Even after such a long time, Black's name was still firmly at the 7th place on the hot search list. On the other hand, the image of an 8-tailed civet behind Black was the 9th most searched topic. Lu Shuang had never seen it before. It had dominated the hot searches for such a long time. At this moment, Lu Shuang did not participate in the Celestial Stairway duel. This was because Lu Shuang realized that the Stairway to Heaven duels were not in the live broadcast room at all. Discussing Black could earn a lot of attention. Shicha, Shuangzi, do you think Black will be able to successfully pass the competition and become a member of the 100 sequence? Lu Shuang said directly when she saw the bullet screen in the live broadcast room. Come. Open it in my live stream room. I bet that Black will not only become a Radiance 100 sequence member, but he will also be ranked 91st. While speaking, Lu Shuang opened the betting function in the live broadcast room. But after a long time, not many people came to bet against Lu Shuang. Obviously, Lu Shuang's audience felt the same way. Black was ranked 91st in the 100 sequence. Lu Shuang had fought with many Radiance 100 sequence members. Lu Shuang had defeated a few of the top 20 Radiance 100 sequence members. It could be said that in everyone's eyes, Black was Black. That was the strength of the Radiance 100 sequence's top 20. Lu Shuang didn't feel it was a pity when she saw that not many people were betting against her. In any case, as long as they bet, they would lose to him in the end. At that moment, Lu Shuang noticed another bullet screen. Devil in Heaven, Shuangzi, I want to listen to you again. What's going on with Black's 8-tailed spirit cat? Lu Shuang had already replied to this question many times. Firstly, Devil in Heaven was Lu Shuang's old fan. Secondly, every time Lu Shuang replied to this question, there would be many people sending gifts. Lu Shuang replied. Analyzing the specific situation, Black's 8-tailed spirit cat reflected the exquisite rhinoceros deer's spiritual attack. It's 100% a spiritual type Fae. Given Black's age, it's impossible for him to become an A-rank spirit chi professional. Therefore, Black must have a Kamara grade. That 8-tailed spirit cat's strength is at Diamond X/Fantasy V, it's not a myth breed Fae that some streamers analyzed. I can guarantee this. After talking about Black for a while, there were more and more discussions about the Radiance 100 sequence in the bullet screen. Unexpected encounter. The Radiance 100 sequences test this time is very different from the past. It's simply too cool to live stream it. Shuangzi, you can live stream it in the live broadcast room. I'll be watching your live stream. I heard from the officials that we can switch perspectives to watch. Let's keep an eye on Black. I don't believe that he can't summon a Fae during the Radiance 100 sequences test. Lu Shuang's eyes lit up when she saw this bullet screen. He said immediately. Good idea. The Radiance 100 Sequences test will officially begin tomorrow. I'll be broadcasting from Black's perspective. You're welcome to watch. If Black performs well, don't forget to send me more gifts. After Lu Shuang said this, the bullet screen immediately flew up. It's just a dream after all, the streamer is asking for gifts in public, shameless. Laughing but not making a sound, Shuangzi has been corrupted. During this period of time, he had been asking for gifts in the name of being anti-hero. Shuangzi, although you don't look like a woman, you are still a woman. If you get Black, I will give you gifts every day. Light of the bright moon, go grab the snacks. Right now, the price of snacks on Star Web has increased. If you don't fight for it, you won't be able to eat melon seeds when you watch Shuangzi's live broadcast tomorrow. Everyone was looking forward to the start of the Radiance 100 sequence selection. The 100 Descendants towers near the Radiance Sacred Hall were all open. These 100 Descendants towers were filled with the 100 sequence members from various major cities. The 100 Descendants towers could be said to be the gathering place for the top geniuses of the Radiance 100's younger generation. Everyone was waiting for tomorrow's arrival. A youth was in a single dormitory in one of the 100 Descendants towers. He was fastening the button at his neck. A silver mask was worn on the youth's face. No one could see the youth's appearance. However, the youth's bone structure was abnormally perfect. He was wearing a mask, but he gave off a peerlessly handsome feeling. This person was Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan didn't expect that among the City 100 sequence. There were also quite a number of his fans. These fans all wore silver masks on their faces. It could be said that these people wearing silver masks. They had been recognized as Black and had been questioned by others. Only Lin Yuan was an exception. After Genius's bloodline metamorphosis. After the tool transformation, the silver mask had undergone a significant change. When he had just returned to the dormitory, Lin Yuan was despised by a young lady. She said that she was a fake fan of Black. Even the style of the mask was wrong. Lin Yuan thought to himself as he fastened the button at his neck. At this time, Lu Jie should already be inside the Radiance Sacred Hall. It was time to carry out the 100 sequence ranking. Instant Beast Evolution Quotient. Please bookmark this site so that you can read it online the next time there is an update. Read the first complete book in advance. The mobile version is the fastest. Chapter 1627. Lu Jie had already completed this year's Radiance 100 sequence ranking. He was ranked 30th. He took back his title as the Heart of the Swarm. Lu Jie was able to rearrange the rankings as soon as he returned. Because this was the honor given to heroes by the Radiance Sacred Hall. Back then, Lu Jie was on the verge of death because of the Insect Queen. Even the Bamboo Monarch, who was a Class 5 creation master, was unable to heal the Insect Queen that was on the verge of death. Therefore, Lu Jie had no other choice. He then withdrew from the Radiance 100 sequence. Disheartened, Lu Jie began to live an incognito life. Lu Jie's Insect Queen had already recovered. He naturally had to return to the Radiance 100 sequence. Due to Lu Jie's return, this year's Radiance 100 sequence selection was held. Based on previous years, it would undoubtedly be more intense. Originally, there were only 10 members of the 100 sequence who were ranked 91st to 100th. To compete with newcomers. However, Lu Jie was ranked 30th, defeating the original 30th place, Lan Tuanquan. As a result, all the members of the 100 sequence who were ranked behind Lan Zhuan were pushed down. The Radiance 100 sequence could only have 100 young prodigies. Therefore, the original 90th place would also have to enter the competition. This meant that there would be 11 original Radiance 100 sequence members. He was going to compete with the newcomers who had passed the selection test for the throne of the Radiance 100 sequence. This increased the competitiveness of this year's selection. Due to the upgrade of the Star Web, the administrator of the Radiance Sacred Hall had become the Radiance Sacred Hall. It was Lu Wencheng who made the decision. The ranking of this year's Radiance 100 sequence would be arranged on Star Web. It could be said that all the members of the 100 sequence had their eyes on him. 1 year later, during the selection of the Radiance Envoys, many people felt that it was impossible for them to become Radiance Envoys. But the position of the Radiant Light Knights still had to be fought for. For this ranking, the 100 sequence members who had been concealing their strength, they were all prepared to reveal their trump cards. He wanted to fight for a higher ranking. This was because there were only the top 30 of the Radiance 100 sequence. Only then could they participate in the selection of the Radiance Envoys and Radiance Knights. Lu Jia had known this before. Therefore, he purposely placed himself at the 30th position. But now, Lu Jia understood that Lin Yuan would be participating in the Radiance 100 sequence selection. He wanted to announce his identity as the Moon Empress disciple to the world. Tell the world that Black and Lin Yuan were the same person. Since Lin Yuan was ready to show his true prodigy, he had to show his true prodigy. As Lin Yuan's retainer knight, Lu Jia naturally had to follow him. This time, the Radiance 100 sequences ranking would be held. Lu Jia did not plan to hide his strength like last time. Instead, he planned to try his best to fight for first place. The Radiance 100 sequences number 1. He had always been firmly controlled by a girl. Many of the Radiance 100 sequence members had reached a certain age. He did not have the opportunity to participate in the Radiance Envoy selection. They would often choose to reveal their strength in the year before they retired. These people were the best targets to challenge. She was naturally the Radiance 100 sequences number 1, the titled fable, Xia Qing. 3 years ago, Xia Qing was less than 20 years old. After passing the selection, he became a Radiance 100 sequence member. Back then, Xia Qing was a dark horse that suddenly appeared. Before Xia Qing appeared, there was no news about Xia Qing on the entire Star Web. In the second year, Xia Qing was ranked 91st. He directly defeated the original first place. That was Liang, who was ranked second. He had ascended to the top of the Radiance 100 sequence. At that time, Xia Qing had just ascended to the top. She then requested to change her title. Xia Qing's original title was Black Oxygen, but Xia Qing changed her title to Fable. After changing the title, Xia Qing said one sentence. She said that she must become a Radiance Envoy. The meaning of Xia Qing's title was self-evident. It was for the sake of Fable. This was big news within the Radiance 100 at that time. Many people were curious about Xia Qing's identity. Even Lu Jia was no exception. Many guild clubs had invited Xia Qing. Li Su was in the Rhine Guild Club, and Long Tao was in the Dragon Gate Guild Club. It could be said that basically all the A-grade guild clubs had looked for Xia Qing. Xia Qing was the number 1 of the Radiance 100 sequence. Whichever team Xia Qing was in, that team would be a celebrity team. In addition, Xia Qing was strong enough. She was so strong that Liang couldn't even last 20 moves against her. Liang summoned 4 Fays. Xia Qing only summoned 2 of them. Except for special cases like Lu Jia. The other 100 sequence members would normally be able to contract 3 or more Fays. They would also be matched with some source-type lifeforms. Therefore, Xia Qing didn't use her full strength against Liang. She had achieved a crushing momentum. Lu Jia had been very curious about Xia Qing's identity. Xia Qing wasn't from a veteran faction or a top faction. Otherwise, people from the Radiance 100 sequence who came from a top faction or a veteran faction, it was impossible for them not to recognize Xia Qing. Xia Qing lived in seclusion. Except for the annual 100 sequence ranking, she would only appear occasionally. Usually, she would only occasionally do the missions issued by the Radiant's Sacred Hall. At that time, Lu Jie didn't know Xia Qing's identity. After becoming Night Leaning Moon's disciple, Lu Jie knew. Xia Qing was that old man's granddaughter. In this ranking, Lu Jie's eyes were fixed on Xia Qing. He was ready to have a good fight with Xia Qing. In the Radiant Sacred Hall's auditorium, there was a ceremonial platform at the front. At that moment, Lord Wencheng was standing on the ceremonial platform. Below the ceremonial platform were 5 seats. These 5 seats were empty all year round. Only the current Radiance envoy was qualified to sit there. Behind the 5 chairs was a row of 100 seats. Lu Jie was sitting on the seats. On normal days, the 100 sequence members had their own specific seats. They had to sit above their specific seats. However, every year, there was only one exception. The 100 sequence was about to have a new ranking. On this day, one could sit anywhere. Bai Hao, who was sitting next to Lu Jie, asked. Jie, why do I feel that you're different from usual today? Why is there such a strong battle intent in your eyes? Are you planning to go up again? Lu Jie nodded in response. Wang Fan rubbed his palms and said, Bai Hao, among the 3 of us, you're the lowest. Bai Hao, of the 3 of us, you're the lowest. Bai Hao, among the 3 of us, your ranking is the lowest. Isn't it better to fight in the top 50? Wouldn't it be nice to get into the top 50? Bai Hao felt that the white sequence's ranking. It was not good for him at all. Bai Hao knew very well that his contracted Fei was a little unorthodox. It only paid attention to explosive power and did not have the ability to fight continuously. They only cared about outbursts and didn't have the ability to fight continuously. If he couldn't defeat his opponent, he would become useless. If he couldn't deal with his opponent, he would become useless. With his unorthodox fighting style, it was impossible for him to win. They were not suitable to fight for the position of the Radiant Light Knights or the Radiance Envoy. Chapter 1628. Therefore, Bai Hao did not place much importance on the Radiance 100 sequence ranking. The Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess was misunderstood because of the Warm Sun Foundation. Bai Hao wasn't able to provide any substantial help. He could only help to make a statement on Star Web. As a Radiance 100 sequence member, Bai Hao personally took the field. He was in line with those Black Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddesses streamers. Because of Bai Hao, he had even become a trending topic on the Star Web. However, the next day, the situation took a turn for the worse. Before Bai Hao could rejoice, he discovered something. Since then, the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess had never live-streamed again. Bai Hao, who had not seen the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess's live-stream for a few days, was lost in his thoughts. The Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess faced doubts. How disheartened would he be? Bai Hao really wanted to console the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess. However, the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess did not reveal any information about herself on the Star Web. Bai Hao wanted to go online and comfort the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess, but there was nothing he could do. The Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess had publicly said that she knew Black. Over the past few days, Bai Hao had even started to look for trouble. He intended to ask for the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess's contact information. He could comfort the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess in private. However, the Radiance 100 sequences ranking was right around the corner. Because of that, Bai Hao had no choice but to focus on getting stronger. If he focused on fighting, he might be able to reach the top 50. Others would look for their weaknesses and target them. He also had the ability to knock himself down from his 79th position. 91 to 100 were all rookies who had been selected last year. Among these newcomers, there were quite a few who were rather strong. There were even a few rookies who rushed into the top 50. It wasn't impossible. Although Bai Hao was currently ranked 79th, but underneath him, there were only a dozen or so people who were scapegoats. Most of these people were only 26 or 27 years old. The younger ones were around 23 or 24 years old. Given their age, they were all qualified to fight for the Radiance Envoy selection. Therefore, everyone would use their trump cards to fight. If he did not improve his strength, what if he was defeated? That would be too shameful. Therefore, Bai Hao was prepared to wait for the Radiance 100 sequence test to end. Then, he would ask Black face to face. How could he contact the Sparrow Voice lowly goddess? Forget about the top 50. I just want to make it into the top 80. Bai Hao looked at Lu Jie gratefully. Jie Zi, where did you get so much money recently? You lent me 80 million Radiance dollars and gave me a pile of spiritual ingredients that are hard to buy even with money. Do you have any more flowers? Wang Fan chimed in. Jie Zi, I've used the spirit materials you gave me. I didn't spend the money. You were able to rank in the top 30 before. This time, try to fight your way up. I can definitely try to fight for the position of Radiance Envoy. You have a lot more potential than me and Bai Hao. Bai Hao and I were thinking of giving you all of our resources, Yang Qi said. You're the one who's supposed to improve yourself. Before Lu Jie met Lin Yuan, he had always been exchanging resources with Wang Fan and Bai Hao. As long as one of the three of them needed money, they would not be able to afford it. The other two would not be stingy. Lu Jie had received a lot of help from Wang Fan and Bai Hao. Otherwise, the Insect Queen's gold rank skill would not have been able to obtain the lightning-gathering moths. It was an exceptionally rare insect species Fei. Lu Jie became Lin Yuan's retainer. He could not use Lin Yuan's resources to help Bai Hao and Wang Fan. However, after Lu Jie became Night Leaning Moon's disciple. Night Leaning Moon gave Lu Jie a lot of resources. The resources that Lu Jie used to improve his strength. Lin Yuan and Night Leaning Moon were all prepared. Therefore, Lu Jie gave the resources at hand to Wang Fan and Bai Hao half a month ago. They were all given to Wang Fan and Bai Hao. To help his two good brothers, Wang Fan and Bai Hao, improve their strength. Upon hearing Wang Fan and Bai Hao's concern for him, Lu Jie smiled. My current strength no longer needs resources to improve. It's the right thing for you two to use these resources to improve your strength. You two should use these resources to increase your strength. That's the most important thing. He was so confident that he was even a little conceited. What did it mean that he did not need resources to improve his strength? Wang Fan and Bai Hao had not seen the Insect Queen for a long time. Could it be that the Insect Queen's strength had improved to Diamond X/Fantasy V? At the thought of this, Wang Fan and Bai Hao hurriedly shook their heads. This kind of strength was the legendary standard of His Holiness's disciple. Lu Jie's Insect Queen had only recovered half a year ago. How could its strength improve so quickly? At that moment, Su, who was sitting in the back seat, spoke. Lu Jie, Black has always been teaming up with you in those few 2v2 celestial stairway duels. You and Black should know each other. Upon hearing that, Lu Jie turned to look at Su and nodded. Lu Jie knew Su, Long Tao, Zhao Xiaochun, Fang Duo, and the others. He had experienced life and death with Lin Yuan in the dimensional rift. They were all Lin Yuan's friends. That's right, I know Black. Upon hearing Lu Jie's words, Su patted Lu Jie's shoulder. He asked. If you know Black, do you know what kind of Fey Black's eight-tailed spirit cat is? When I killed the Abyss demons with Black previously, Black used two plant species Feys. One for healing, and the other for spreading out a sea of flowers with area of effect lethality. That's right. There's also a source-type life form that can control sand for defense. I don't see Black having a cat fae either. Shi Su's words instantly attracted the attention of many of the surrounding 100 sequence members. The duel between Black and Lu Shuang. The Radiance 100 sequence members had basically seen it. None of them could see the 8-tailed spirit cat image behind Black. Lu Shuang had 2 Diamond X/Fantasy for walking witch snakes. One was a Diamond X/Fantasy V exquisite rhinoceros deer. Such fey equipment and strength. It was far beyond the Radiance 100 sequence's combat level. Even if everyone was hiding their strength, their true strength would definitely not reach Lu Shuang's standard. The Radiance 100 sequence members were all below 30 years old. Lu Shuang was already 37 or 38 years old. With such a huge age difference, putting them together, there was really nothing to compare. In another 7 or 8 years, the current 100 sequence members, they would basically reach Lu Shuang's strength. They might even be stronger than Lu Shuang. In the duel at the Star Web Starlight Duel Arena, Black had defeated Lu Shuang using an unknown method. Black's performance and strength, this caused the Radiance 100 sequence group to be in an uproar. In everyone's opinion, Black was definitely a Radiance 100 sequence member. In the future, Black would also be added to the group by His Holiness Wen Cheng. Quite a number of people were already secretly discussing it in the group. Black Radiance 100 sequence's title. Shi Su's question left Lu Jia dumbfounded. Chapter 1629. During this period of time, Lu Jia had been in seclusion in the land of spirit suppression. After returning, he discussed matters with Lin Yuan, Gao Feng, Zhong Zhe, Gu Lang, and An He. After the discussion, they received a summons from Wen City. They arrived at the Radiant Sacred Hall. Lu Jia didn't even have time to eat or drink during the 2 weeks he was in seclusion. Every time he ate, Lu Jia would eat at the same speed as when he was training in the wilderness. He finished his meal in 3 minutes. It was all for the sake of increasing his strength as much as possible. Thus, he did not have the time to log into the Star Web to understand the latest developments. Therefore, Lu Jia was confused by Shi Su's question. An 8-tailed civet. Could it be that someone who was always sticking to Lin Yuan's embrace and acting like a spoiled child was smart? Lu Jia was not a creation master. He couldn't see the Fae's abilities and exclusive skills. However, one could see the Fae's grade. In Lu Jia's memory, the last time he saw Genius was when Lu Jia saw Genius. Genius was a Diamond I/Fantasy 3 Fae. Furthermore, Genius had used its exclusive skill, Interconnection Tail, on Lu Jia. Lu Jia treated Genius as a support-type Fae. Lu Jia had heard Wang Fan mention the duel between Black and Lu Shuang. Lu Jia had encountered Lu Shuang during the Sky Stairway duel. And that was before Lu Jia's Insect Queen's origin was damaged. At that time, Lu Shuang was not as powerful as she was now. Lu Jia relied on his Insect Queen to fight, so he was good at positional warfare. However, the Celestial Stairway duels were randomized. There was no cover. This made the battle extremely disadvantageous for the Earth battle. Lu Jia lost to Lu Shuang. He understood Lu Shuang's exquisite rhinoceros deer and the 2 walking witch snakes. Relying on the low witch snake as a sacrifice to fight, how shameless was that? If it wasn't for the fact that they were in the Radiant Sacred Hall right now, after listening to Wang Fan talk about the battle between Black and Lu Shuang, Lu Jiedo could not wait to log into Star Web. He wanted to take a look at Lin Yuan's duel. Genius was a support-type Fae. Lu Jia heard Genius block Lu Shuang's all-out attack. He was completely dumbfounded. Lu Jia realized that he really did not understand Lin Yuan. He even had confidence in his own intelligence. I don't really understand him. Naturally, he couldn't tell Shi Su what he didn't know. Furthermore, it was related to the details of Lin Yuan's fate. It was impossible for Lu Jie to expose it. Fortunately, Shi Su was just asking. Had he seen Black's feline fey before? Lu Jie nodded and said. Black does have a cat species fey called Genius. Lu Jie's words instantly piqued the interest of the others. If it wasn't for His Majesty Wen Qing standing on the stage, the other Radiance 100 sequence members would probably have to sit next to Lu Jie. Just when everyone thought Lu Jie would continue speaking, a voice suddenly rang out. Unexpectedly, Lu Jie did not mention Black's eight-tailed civet again. Shi Su's eyes widened as he thought to himself. Big brother, you only told us this cat fey's name? What's the use of knowing that it's smart? What about skills? What about exclusive skills? What we want to know is, what did it rely on to block Lu Shuang's all-out attack? Liang, who was sitting next to Shi Su, was also very curious. Just as he was about to ask. At this moment, a short-haired girl wearing silver half-body armor walked in. After the woman came in, everyone's gaze froze for a moment. No matter what topic they were discussing just now. At this moment, the girl wearing half-body armor walked in. She immediately became the focus of the audience. Liang looked at the girl wearing half-body armor with fear in his eyes. He dispelled his curiosity about Black. Liang still remembered when he fought with this girl 3 years ago. When he was 22 years old, he had beaten up a 19-year-old girl. It was as if he was being played by this 19-year-old girl. He did not have the slightest strength to fight back. That battle had deeply hurt Liang's self-esteem. Liang had trained hard for 3 years. It was to be able to be in the Radiance 100 sequence 1 year before the Radiance Envoy selection. He wanted to compete with this girl again. Liang did not want to wash away his shame. He just wanted to take a look. In the past 3 years, Yi Zichen had been in a daze. Did the gap between him and this girl become wider? Long Tao scurried over a few positions. He asked Lu Jie through by how. Each of us has 3 chances to challenge. After the last challenge chance is used, the order is basically determined. If you want to change the order, you can only be challenged. You rush forward. Why don't I challenge you first? You defeat me and stand in my position. This way, you can save a challenge chance. If you fight forward, you can also challenge a few more times. The Radiance 100 sequence had many rules. Those at the top of the sequence could challenge those at the bottom at will. Those at the bottom wanted to challenge those at the top of the sequence. They had to choose an opponent within the top 10. This meant that if you hid your strength too much, you would be ranked after the 60th place. Unless the person in front took the initiative to challenge you. Otherwise, you would have to fight 3 times and win all 3 times. You would not be able to fight in the top 30. However, after failing to challenge someone, you could still choose to continue to challenge. Until the 3 chances were used. It was convenient to make a practical battle plan after understanding the opponent. Long Tao spoke very softly. It was so soft that only Bai Hao and Lu Jie could hear it clearly. Bai Hao had a shocked expression on his face. What did Long Tao mean? Listening to Long Tao's words, it was as if he could not defeat Lu Jie and wanted to pave the way for him. Long Tao was the 3rd in the Radiance 100 sequence. He was from the top faction, Coiled Dragon Valley. He was also the Coiled Dragon Valley's young master. He had never pretended to speak to outsiders and was very sharp-tongued. He was an old hermaphrodite. He only smiled at his teammates. When did Long Tao become so familiar with Lu Jie? Long Tao seemed to be sure that Lu Jie could defeat him. The Radiance 100 sequence's exclusivity couldn't be too obvious. Otherwise, Wen City wouldn't agree. During the gathering at Zhongzai's, Long Tao, Li Xian, Gao Feng, Zhong Zhe, Gu Lang, and the others. They already knew Lu Jie's identity as the Night Empress disciple. That Nix assembly was held for Lu Jie. Next year was the Radiance Envoy selection. At such a time, everyone had to rush forward. Lu Jie was no exception. Lu Jie nodded and said, "Thank you. Thank you very much. I really want to charge forward." While speaking, Lu Jie's gaze landed on Xiaqing. Lu Jie's eyes were immediately filled with astonishment as soon as he saw it. Lu Jie saw that Zhao Xiaochun had been there for some time. He sat next to Xiaqing. He handed Xiaqing a braised pig trotter. On Zhao Xiaochun's side, she was holding the pig trotter. She was gnawing on it. She seemed to be enjoying it. Chapter 1630. Not only did Xiaqing not refuse Zhao Xiaochun. She took the pig trotters that Zhao Xiaochun handed over without hesitation. She ate with Zhao Xiaochun. Compared to Zhao Xiaochun, Xiaqing ate very elegantly. But the speed of eating was not slow at all. At this moment, he suddenly thought of a rumor. Zhao Xiaochun was the nightmare of all self-service hotels. When going out to sweep, occasionally, she would bring a wingman. Xiaqing wouldn't be Zhao Xiaochun's wingman, right? In an instant, Xiaqing's character in the eyes of the Radiance 100 sequence members collapsed. Only Shi Su had a calm face. Since opening the Muxiang Pavilion, Shi Su was equivalent to Zhao Xiaochun. Zhao Xiaochun no longer went out to sweep other restaurants. Instead, she ate and drank in the Muxiang Pavilion every day. Shi Su became a working emperor again for love, earning money to support Zhao Xiaochun. During this time, Shi Su found out. Every week, Zhao Xiaochun would call Xiaqing to eat at the Muxiang Pavilion. After talking about boyfriend and girlfriend with Zhao Xiaochun, Shi Su learned that Zhao Xiaochun ate non-stop every day. It was because she had contracted a source-type life form. Zhao Xiaochun eating was a way to improve the strength of source-type life forms. Xiaqing was obviously the same. When Xiaqing was eating in the Muxiang Pavilion, once, in Xiaqing's body, a strange sound came faintly. This sound was somewhat like the low moan of some kind of beast. But in those few battles of Xiaqing's, Shi Su didn't find out that Xiaqing summoned a beast-type fey that could make such a low moan. Xiaqing hit it so deeply. Lu Wencheng stood on the stage. He looked at the 100 geniuses of the younger generation of the Radiance 100 sequence. His face was full of pride. In the auditorium, on a big bronze bell, the needle pointed to 12, and the big bronze bell was suddenly rung. All the Radiance 100 sequence members straightened their backs with solemn eyes. They looked at Lu Wencheng. At this moment, the Radiance 100 sequence ranking. It was time to officially start. Lu Wencheng said loudly. In the past years, the ranking was all carried out in the arena. For many people, this fighting method can't be considered fair. The ranking this time will be conducted on the Star Web. The Star Web ranking battle is still a one-on-one competition. It's still not very friendly to healing class and support class spirit chi professionals. However, the battlefield has expanded to 1 square kilometer. Within this 1 square kilometer area, there are 6 types of terrains: grassland, mountains, rivers, basins, forests, and deserts. The terrain is also uneven. Fighting in this kind of arena will allow you to fully display your individual combat style. In the ranking tournament in the past years, you guys always held back when you fought. This time, it's on Star Web. You don't have to worry about anything. Have a good fight. Hearing His Holiness Wencheng's words, the members of the 100 sequence sitting below the stage were stunned. Most of them sucked in a cold breath. In fact, everyone had already guessed it. This year's Radiance 100 sequence ranking would be conducted on Star Web. After the Star Web was updated, the members of the 100 sequence had either reached the celestial stairway on Star Web, or they would invite a few teammates to fight against each other. The pain was intense, and he experienced the feeling of death a few times. This kind of pain pulls the experience of death. Compared to the original Heaven Stairway duel, there was no pain to experience death. They were two completely different things. When the Radiance 100 sequence members went out to do missions, the Radiance 100 sequence members suddenly appeared. However, there were always injuries and even brushes with death. But in the end, they had never truly died. The feeling of death, experienced people. No one wanted to recall it. At that moment, Lu Wencheng changed the topic. Next February, the Radiance envoys will be selected. The new ranking of the 100 sequence will be held in March. Therefore, this ranking is your last chance. So, this time, show us all what you've got. Let this old man see if you are worthy of the title of Radiance 100. As he spoke, Lu Wencheng's gaze shifted. He focused on Xiaoqing and Lu Jie. After Xiaoqing rang the bronze bell, he had already finished the braised pig trotters. The bones were stored in the diamond face storage box. Zhao Xiaochun, on the other hand, had a braised pig trotter in her mouth. His expression was solemn. She did not even chew the tendon in her mouth. She looked as though she was waiting for him to finish speaking and chewing. Upon seeing this, Lu Wencheng shook his head helplessly and said, "Zhao Xiaochun, your contracted source-type life form is rather special. If you don't eat enough, you will always be in a state of hunger. I'll allow you to finish this pig trotter first." Upon hearing that, Zhao Xiaochun's face turned red. She quickly kept the pig trotter in her mouth. Even if the source-type life form in her body caused trouble and starved her to death, Zhao Xiaochun could not possibly chew on the pig trotters while Lu Wencheng was speaking. Lu Wencheng's speech just now. It made all the 100 sequence members present who had thoughts about the Radiance envoys. The flames of war in their hearts burned. Even if they knew that they could not become a Radiance envoy, they had to fight for the position of the Radiance Light Knight Order. One had to know that becoming a member of the Radiance Light Knight Order, the treatment they received and the resources they poured into them. The treatment and the resources they received were completely different from becoming a 100 sequence member. More importantly, becoming a member of the Radiance Light Knight Order. It was an honor. 2 years later, the Radiance Federation and the Freedom Federation. The bet would be settled at the 10,000 Nations Conference. The Radiance envoys and the members of the Radiance Light Knight Order were all substitutes. But even as substitutes, everyone wanted to do their part for Radiance. Lu Wencheng looked at the group of 100 sequence members who were burning with fighting spirit and said, "Now, take out your Star Web card and move to the Radiance Sacred Hall on Star Web. Then, start from Xiaoqing, who is ranked first. Challenge from the front to the back. Inside the Radiance Sacred Hall on Star Web." Xiaoqing stood up and said, "I give up 3 chances to challenge. This way of challenging from the front to the back, it could give more opportunities to the 100 sequence members who were ranked lower. It was also this way. All the Radiance 100 sequence members who were eliminated did not have the slightest complaint. Because they were eliminated because they were really noobs. In the end, they picked 3 opponents who were easy to deal with. They could not beat them. It was impossible to find a reason. After Xiaoqing gave up the chance, Liang stood up. He said to Lu Wencheng, "Lu Wencheng, I request to challenge Xiaoqing, who is ranked first in the Radiance 100 sequence." This had been repeated every year for the past 3 years. Everyone was already used to it. At that moment, everyone saw Liang walk to Xiaoqing's side. He spoke in an abnormally serious tone. Chapter 1631. This is my trump card. I couldn't use it when I was fighting in the arena. Baidu search. However, this time, the Radiance 100 Sequences ranking battle will be held on Star Web. I can use my trump card without hesitation. Hearing Li Ang's words, the expression on Xia Qing's face did not change. But Shi Su was Li Ang's teammate. Upon hearing Li Ang's words, his heart skipped a beat. Then, a smile appeared on his face. Li Ang, you can finally use that move. Shi Su and Li Ang were Radiance 100 Sequence members. Furthermore, he was a main member of the A-ranked guild club, the Rhine Guild Club. They were very clear about each other's trump cards. Li Ang's words piqued the interest of many Radiance 100 Sequence members present. Although Li Ang was defeated by Xia Qing. However, Li Ang had been sitting firmly on the throne of the Radiance 100 Sequence too. During this period, many people challenged Li Ang. But no one had truly defeated Li Ang. Therefore, Li Ang challenged Xia Qing. Every year, everyone would treat it as an exhibition match. This year was no exception. However, there was one person who was different from the rest. This person was none other than Lu Jie. 2 years ago, Lu Jie's insect queen was on the verge of death. He then withdrew from the Radiance 100 Sequence. Therefore, the battle between Li Ang and Xia Qing in the past 2 years had been rather intense. Even Lu Jie had missed it. Lu Jie's goal was Xia Qing. However, he didn't know anything about Xia Qing. If only he could see the duel between Xia Qing and Li Ang. The more means Li Ang used, the more trump cards he could force out of Xia Qing. After understanding Xia Qing, it would be more convenient for Lu Jie to fight against Xia Qing. Lu Jie, who was an expert in positional warfare, was on the battlefield. He had to be able to use the strategy effectively. Baidu Search Long Tao knew that. That was why he would rather reach the 30th position before moving up. He also wanted to give Lu Jie another chance. Otherwise, Lu Jie would only be able to choose his opponent from the top 10. He went all the way to the 10th place, wanting to fight Xia Qing. There was only one chance left. But now, if Lu Jie were to sit in his 3rd position, it would be impossible for him to do so. There were a total of 3 chances to use it. He would use any chance to defeat Xia Qing. Lu Jie was able to sit on the Radiance 100 Sequences number 1 throne. This way, even if Lu Jie didn't know Xia Qing, he could also force out Xia Qing's means through his continuous challenges. Summing up a lesson. Li Ang saw that Xia Qing was indifferent. He took a deep breath and said, "I don't think you used your full strength in the past. I hope you can be more serious this year." Upon hearing this, Xia Qing looked up at Li Ang and said, "Your strength is not enough for me to use my full strength. When I fought you in the past, I didn't even summon my main fei. In this duel, I hope that you will only challenge me once. Don't challenge it 3 times in a row like last year. This year, I won't hide my strength anymore. I'll let you clearly see the gap between us." Xia Qing's voice was a little cold. But he was not arrogant at all. Xia Qing's statement did not arouse Li Ang and the other members of the 100 Sequence. He was just surprised by Xia Qing's strength. It turned out that Xia Qing and Li Ang were fighting before. He also had to face challenges from the members of the 100 Sequence who had reached the age limit and were about to retire. He hadn't even used his main fei. Not using the main fei to fight was no longer as simple as hiding one's strength. It was just that their strengths were not on the same level at all. Li Ang said frankly, "If you can make me lose wholeheartedly in the first match, then, I won't challenge you a second or a third time. I will forfeit the remaining 2 challenges." When Xia Qing heard this, the corners of her mouth hooked up. "It's a deal." Then, under Lu Wensheng's guidance, He arrived at the test space. Since entering the examination venue was a random teleportation. Unable to determine the location. Unexpectedly, both Liang and Xiaqing were teleported to the basin. An area of 1 square kilometer was neither big nor small. It was very rare for them to meet each other at the beginning of the teleportation. Fortunately, Liang was a power offense-type spirit qi professional. When fighting, there was no need to prepare. Liang waved his hand and 3 elemental faceless phantoms appeared. They appeared around Liang. Next, a creature with 3 tails appeared. A long-eared squirrel with 3 tails of 3 different colors. It appeared in Liang's arms. Liang was average-looking and had been learning from Shi Su how to pick up girls. Therefore, he grew a big beard. It made his ordinary appearance look a little sloppy. However, after Liang became serious, his firm eyes gave Liang a different kind of charm out of nowhere. Lu Jie knew Liang's fei combination. It was obvious that Liang had not shown his trump card yet. Liang had contracted 3 elemental source-type lifeforms. However, these 3 elemental source-type lifeforms were nurtured by Liang. They could not be compared to Lin Yuan's source sand, Zhong Zai's source fire, and Wen Yu's source paper. Liang could not get that much pure elemental energy. He could not put all his resources into these 3 elemental source-type lifeforms. Liang used the simplest method to induce these 3 elemental source-type lifeforms. He used spiritual-type spiritual ingredients and his own blood to induce them. He focused the potential of the elemental source-type lifeforms on their consciousness. Liang's faceless wind elemental body, faceless water elemental body, and faceless thunder elemental body. Each of them could release high-frequency elemental energy attacks. They could even change the terrain. As for the little squirrel in Liang's arms, it was the main fei that Liang had always displayed, the 3 mystic flood rat. The 3 mystic flood rat was also a spell machine gun. These 3 tails stored a massive amount of elemental energy. They cooperated with the 3 faceless elemental bodies to carry out elemental energy attacks. The firepower could be poured out for at least 3 hours. Just as Liang was about to summon his trump card, Xiaqing waved her hand and summoned a huge frog that was half red and half blue. This frog was as big as a small building. On both sides of the giant frog's 2-colored body were fine airflow and flame patterns. It was as if the airflow was about to burn. Xiaqing had never summoned this frog species fei before. Before Liang summoned his trump card, Xiaqing shouted, "Oxygen absorption frog, use oxygen flow incineration. Oxygen absorption frog, use oxygen flow incineration." Upon hearing Xiaqing's instructions, this 2-colored giant frog opened its mouth. It took a deep breath. The surrounding airflow seemed to be pushed by a mighty force. It quickly entered the oxygen absorption frog's mouth. Immediately after, the airflow patterns on the oxygen absorption frog's body drifted away. As the airflow patterns drifted away, the flame patterns also jumped rapidly. Black flames ignited on the oxygen absorption frog's body. Instant Beast Evolution Quotient. Please bookmark this site so that you can read it online the next time there is an update. Read the first complete book in advance. The mobile version is the fastest. Chapter 1632. Immediately after, Liang discovered he couldn't breathe. Or rather, no matter how hard he breathed, the tip of his nose couldn't smell any oxygen. Liang immediately knew that after Xiaqing's main fei used its ability, it sucked away all the oxygen in the space and burned it. What Liang had to do now was to separate the space on his side, so that the airflow on his side couldn't pour into the giant frog's mouth. In this way, the air behind him would flow over. He would be able to absorb oxygen. Liang ordered. 3 black torrent rat, you guide the three of them and prop up an elemental barrier. The three black torrent rat heard Liang's command. Three elemental energy walls immediately appeared in front of Liang. At this moment, Liang didn't notice it at all. The moment the elemental walls rose, the oxygen-collapsing frog's eyes turned and stopped inhaling. Suddenly, the black flames on the surface of the oxygen-collapsing frog's body burned a little more fiercely. As the black flames burned, it caused the air to be filled with viscous, paint-like ripples. The Star Web's battle arena completely simulated the main world's sense of space. This viscous feeling was caused by the burning of space. It was a sign of impending collapse. Long Tao, who was watching the duel between Liang and Xiaoqing, spoke with difficulty. This oxygen-collapsing frog's strength is Diamond X/Fantasy V. Liang's three faceless elemental bodies, one of them is Diamond V/Fantasy 3. The other one is Diamond 4/Legend. The three black torrent rat's strength has been promoted to Diamond 7/Fantasy 3. However, each small quality level of a fantasy breed Fey is equivalent to 3 to 4 small grades. The combat method used by this oxygen-collapsing frog is also related to elemental energy. The influence caused by the grade difference between elemental Feys. In terms of combat power, it plays a decisive factor. Even if Liang has a trump card, he can't beat a Diamond X/Fantasy V Fey. What is Xiaoqing's identity? While Long Tao was sighing, Liang had already summoned a new Fey. A white-haired fairy source-type lifeform with 2 pairs of wings appeared on Liang's shoulder. After this white-haired fairy source-type lifeform appeared, immediately, under Liang's command, he used himself as the main body. He fused with the 3 faceless elemental bodies. The white-haired fairy source-type lifeform had appeared. It immediately attracted the attention of the other Radiance 100 sequence members. Fairies with 2 pairs of wings were also 4-winged fairies. 4-winged demons were rare. Everyone knew that Liang would definitely use his trump card in the battle with Xiaoqing. Everyone was waiting for Liang's trump card. It turned out that Liang's trump card was a Diamond 8/Fantasy 4-winged fairy. Many of them looked at Wuxia. Wuxia's insect queen was a 4-winged demon. Long Tao was not the only creation master in the Radiance 100 sequence. At this moment, brave Lion Leo, who was ranked 7th, spoke. Liang actually contracted a fairy source-type life form, an elemental puppet. If I use this elemental puppet to fuse with 3 faceless elemental bodies, go and absorb the elemental energy in the 3 profound torrent rat's body. His attack will definitely reach the standard of a Diamond X/Fantasy V. Upon hearing that, Wuxia shook his head gently. Any Fey's strength reached Diamond X/Fantasy V. Every attack with all its strength. It was enough to be called a Diamond X/Fantasy V Fey. A Diamond X/Fantasy V Fey could hit dozens of times with all its strength before its energy was exhausted. The elemental puppet could fuse with faceless elemental bodies. It would definitely not be able to hit 5 times before its energy was exhausted. Liang's trump card was in front of Xiaoqing's oxygen absorption frog. He did not know if it was his main Fey or not. Liang's trump card was in front of Xiaoqing's oxygen absorption frog. There was no way to fight at all. Moreover, Xiaoqing was that old man's granddaughter. As long as it was a contracted Fey, it must have the ability to fight above its rank. Therefore, Liang wanted to rely on the elemental puppet to exchange a few moves with Xiaoqing's oxygen absorption frog. It also depended on whether Xiaoqing was willing to give Liang a chance. The fairy source-type life form, the elemental puppet, had now fused with 3 faceless elemental bodies. Its body showed the colors of the 3 elements, water, wind, and thunder. His originally skinny body was now as fat as a balloon that was filled with air. The elemental puppet did not stop absorbing elemental energy. The three profound torrent rat opened the restriction on its tail. A large amount of elemental energy was also absorbed into the elemental puppet's body. Just when Liang was about to remove the elemental wall and confront Xiaqing head-on. However, he did not know that the huge frog with raging black flames on its body. It had long been standing at the other end of the elemental wall. The black flames on its body were the airflow patterns on its body. They turned into hundreds of long and narrow flame whips. These flame whips gathered in mid-air and kept wandering. The viscous space was burned to the point that it looked like it was made of white glue. A few drops of ink were dripping in. But the ink was reluctant to disperse. This scene was like that of a demon king. He could only watch helplessly as the warrior became stronger. But it never made a move to stop the warrior from becoming stronger. That was because the demon king had absolute confidence. As soon as the elemental wall dissipated, Liang was stunned by the scene in front of him. However, Xiaqing did not immediately instruct the oxygen absorption frog to attack. Instead, she spoke to Liang. So far, I have only let the oxygen absorption frog use one skill. You hit your strongest blow. You will see the gap after you hit it. Liang knew that he could not beat Xiaqing. But Xiaqing's words aroused Liang's self-esteem. Liang said angrily. Elemental puppet. Use the exclusive skill elemental amplification. Elemental tremor. Then hit the elemental energy through the skill elemental vortex. After receiving Liang's instructions, the four wings behind the elemental puppet flapped quickly. A huge three-colored vortex appeared around the elemental puppet's body, which was originally fat like a ball. After this vortex materialized, four-winged fairy source-type life form, elemental puppet. It immediately changed from a chubby man to a thin man. It fell to the ground powerlessly. Liang looked at Xiaqing and said, "This is my strongest blow." Upon hearing this, Xiaqing commanded softly. Oxygen absorption frog, oxygen accumulation frog croak. The oxygen absorption frog wanted to use the long whip condensed by the black flames to fight against this huge vortex. But after hearing Xiaqing's instructions, the oxygen absorption frog dispelled its original intention to fight, and then its throat squirmed quickly, accompanied by the frog's croak. The next scene made the Radiance 100 sequence members watching the battle all widen their eyes. Chapter 1633. Everyone saw Liang controlling the fairy source-type life form, the elemental puppet, to gather all the elemental energy. The huge three-colored vortex formed instantly collapsed. The elemental energy in the vortex was like wood that had come into contact with fire. It burned violently. Liang originally wanted to use the elemental energy in this vortex. He wanted to test out his full strength attack. The strength gap between him and Xiaqing. But now, there was no way to test it. Looking at the shocked expression on Liang's face, Xiaqing said, "The oxygen absorption frog's ability, the oxygen accumulation frog's cry, can quickly gather oxygen in the air. High-purity oxygen and elemental energy, through the high-frequency vibration of the frog's cry. It can make the elemental energy burn immediately. It can be said that the oxygen absorption frog's existence itself just restrains your fighting style. I don't want to attack my companions. Give up." Liang was silent for a long time. Then he took a deep look at Xiaqing. He raised his left fist and gave up. If it wasn't necessary, Liang was not willing to attack his companions. Therefore, Liang understood the meaning of Xiaqing's words. However, Liang needed to digest it now. He couldn't beat the non-main Fei that Xiaqing summoned previously. He didn't know if the oxygen absorption frog was Xiaqing's main Fei. But after the oxygen absorption frog appeared, he didn't even have the ability to fight back. This could no longer be described as a gap. After Liang left the test space, he said to Lu Wencheng, "Your Holiness, I give up the next challenge opportunity." After saying that, Liang sat in his seat. He looked a little decadent. Shi Su didn't know how to comfort Liang. Lu Wencheng glanced at Xiaoqing and said, "Xiaoqing, it's already this time." "Xiaoqing, it's already at this time. There's no need to hide your identity anymore. Tell Liang about your identity so that he won't be so depressed." Xiaoqing didn't directly say her identity. Instead, she said to Liang, "My celestial stairway has already reached the sanctuary rank 3 years ago. It's normal for you to not be my match. If you can become a member of the Radiant Light Knights, a large number of Creation Master's resources will pour into you, and you don't need to obtain resources yourself. At that time, the strength of all your phase will have a qualitative improvement. Your 3 faceless elemental bodies nurtured from elemental source-type items were too impatient and didn't have enough resources. As a result, the 3 elemental source-type lifeforms were unable to display their full strength. When you have a high concentration of elemental energy, your combat ability will at least double." Lu Wencheng knew that Xiaoqing had always been like this. "I like to speak my mind." He wouldn't hide his thoughts. His original intention was to let Xiaoqing comfort Liang. As a result, it was equivalent to Xiaoqing teaching Liang a lesson. Liang heard Wencheng's words. He knew in his heart that Xiaoqing must have an extraordinary identity. He was able to reach the Sanctuary Division 3 years ago. They should be Her Majesty's disciple or relative. If that was the case, there was indeed nothing for him to compete with. Originally, Liang still had the thought of fighting for the Radiant's envoy position. But now, Liang had already changed his mind. His focus was entirely on the selection of the Radiant Light Knights. It was just as Xiaoqing had said. After becoming a member of the Radiant Light Knights, he would usher in a metamorphosis. The battle between Xiaoqing and Liang had imperceptibly suppressed many people's ambitions. Liang revealed his trump card. He struck out with the full-powered attack of a Diamond X/Fantasy V Fei. Such strength was already the upper limit of the Radiant's 100 sequence members. Liang gave up the next 2 challenge opportunities. Next was Long Tao's turn. Everyone thought that Long Tao would also challenge Xiaoqing. Then, he would challenge Liang. Long Tao had been concealing his strength and biding his time for the past few years. He never challenged others. It was obvious that he was holding back some big move. Liang came from a veteran faction, while Long Tao came from a top faction. The Coiled Dragon Valley had a large number of Creation Master resources. In addition, Long Tao was originally a Class 3 Creation Master. Therefore, the Creation Master resources that Long Tao could obtain would definitely be stronger than Liang. Moreover, there were faint rumors recently. It was unknown why the Whale Ocean trade. It was surrounded by the Spirit Guards. It had already been removed from the top 3 factions. A few days ago, Coiling Dragon Valley reported that the old Patriarch's main spirit item had successfully become undying. There were already many people who saw the Coiling Dragon Valley as one of the 3 new top forces. They filled the gap in the Whale Ocean trade. Everyone was looking forward to Long Tao's display of strength. But in the end, everyone heard Long Tao speak. "I want to challenge Lu Jie." Hearing Long Tao's words, Lu Wencheng's face changed. A look of interest immediately appeared on his face. Lu Wencheng had seen Lu Jie's battle style at the Nyx assembly. Using an insect-type carcinoma Fei to battle was a refreshing experience for Lu Wencheng. It could be said that this fighting style was very suitable for Lu Jie's title, the Heart of the Swarm. Lu Wencheng, after the Evernight assembly ended. He even specifically asked Night Leaning Moon about Lu Jie's training. Night Leaning Moon was not stingy in voicing her thoughts. Night Leaning Moon came up with the ultimate weapon plan for Lu Jie. Lu Wencheng sucked in a breath of cold air. A spirit chi professional was using dozens of Diamond X/Legend insect-type Cancer phase to fight. Just the thought of it was terrifying. As long as Lu Jia was given enough time to hide, he would be able to escape. Through the insect-type Cancer phase that he controlled. It was not impossible for them to destroy an entire continent. When facing a disaster caused by the insect-type Cancer phase. No matter how strong the individual was. Sometimes, they were unable to turn the tide. If there were any signs of trouble, they would kill it. It was very easy to kill it. But when the situation developed and expanded to the size of a large city. In order to ensure the safety of the citizens in the city. Her Majesty was unable to use large-scale killing methods. Her Majesty was basically defending against the Cancer phase. It had always been an unsolvable problem. However, between the Cancer phase, they were usually able to restrain each other. For example, back then, the insect-type Cancer phase, sawtooth devour ants, and poison dust moths, had appeared in Golden Edge City. These two insect-type Cancer phase were competing against each other, keeping each other in check. Only then did Chef Supreme have the opportunity to resolve this catastrophe. Lu Jia controlled so many insect-type Cancer phase. He could create natural disasters and save natural disasters at the same time. All of this depended on Lu Jia's thoughts. Hence, for Lu Jia, Lu Wencheng felt that the most important thing was not strength but temperament. Previously, Lu Jia was able to resist the insect tide alone in Cold Frost City. It was enough to show that Lu Jia's temperament was kind. Chapter 1634. It could be said that Lu Jia's position had become the Radiant sect's top strategic level resource. Long Tao and Lu Jia knew each other. That day on the second floor of Yeyang Palace, the older generation of the Huiyao sect had witnessed it. Long Tao must have challenged Lu Jia to do him a favor. Lu Jia's target was not Liang. It must have fallen on Xia Qing. Xia Qing had only used the oxygen absorption frog just now to preserve her strength. However, if Lu Jia were to target them, how could Xia Qing preserve her strength? It seemed like the duel between Lu Jia and Xia Qing today was going to be, it was equivalent to seeing the Radiance Envoy assessment 1 year later. Lu Wencheng asked Lu Jia. Lu Jia, do you accept Long Tao's challenge? When the lower-ranked members of the Radiance 100 sequence faced a challenge from the higher-ranked members, the Radiance 100 sequence's members would be able to defeat the lower-ranked members. It was possible to refuse. However, Lu Jia obviously wouldn't refuse Long Tao's challenge. Lu Jia stood up. At that moment, the gazes of the other Radiance 100 sequence members changed. They all looked at Long Tao and Lu Jia in confusion. Did Long Tao and Lu Jia have a grudge against each other? It was clearly Long Tao who had taken the initiative to approach Lu Jia. He was chatting with Lu Jia. It seemed like the two of them were very familiar with each other. As the Radiance 100 sequence number 3, Long Tao went to challenge a few months ago. What was Lu Jia, who had just gained a firm foothold in the Radiance 100 sequence number 30, doing? Long Tao hadn't told anyone about Lu Jia's identity. Zhao Xiaochun and Fang Duo looked at Long Tao. For a moment, he could not figure out Long Tao's thoughts. Xia Qing's eyes were also fixed on Lu Jia. Xia Qing didn't attend the Nix assembly, so she didn't know Lu Jia. He had no idea that Lu Jia wanted to challenge him. However, Xia Qing was still very serious about watching the battle. This was because watching others fight was also a way to strengthen oneself. Wang Fan and Bai Hao, who were present, heard the whole story. The two of them knew that Lu Jia must have encountered some kind of fortuitous encounter. Otherwise, with Long Tao's temperament it was impossible for him to have interacted with Lu Jia. It was impossible for Lu Jia to provide such a huge amount of resources for the two of them. Lu Wensheng saw Lu Jie nod. Lu Jie and Long Tao were immediately teleported to the assessment venue. Long Tao said to Lu Jie seriously before they were teleported to the examination venue. I want to see the difference in strength between us. I'm going to give it my all. Lu Jie nodded and said. I'll take it seriously. Long Tao had just teleported to the edge of the river bank. There was a river next to it. It was filled with large amounts of water elemental energy. Lu Jie appeared in a dense forest. There were a lot of bunkers in the forest, which was very suitable for positional warfare. It could be said that both of them had been teleported to a terrain that was advantageous to them. Long Tao pondered for a moment and waved his hand. A huge dragon beast about 40 meters long appeared behind Long Tao. This dragon was the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon. At present, the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon was still the same as when Lin Yuan had seen it. His body was obviously bigger than before. The Sea King Cretaceous Dragon was a dinosaur. Long Tao was the young master of Coiling Dragon Valley. This Sea King Cretaceous Dragon had been nurtured to the level of Diamond X/Fantasy 4. He needed to upgrade its quality a little. They would be able to reach the limits of the younger generation. Long Tao did not bring the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon to search for Lu Jie's location. Instead, he sent an order to the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon. Sea King Cretaceous Dragon, use your exclusive skill, Water Control, Extremity of the Sea. As Long Tao gave the command, the water elemental energy in the air quickly condensed. The water elemental energy in the river was also drawn over. The condensed water elemental energy gathered in the air and formed water currents. More and more water currents surrounded the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon's body. In the blink of an eye, a huge body of water was formed. This body of water was under the control of the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon's exclusive skill, Water Control. It moved along with the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon's movements. This body of water could be said to be the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon's territory. At the same time, the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon used its ability, 8 Dragon Shadows. 8 Sea King Cretaceous Dragon figures appeared in the body of water. Each of them had a shocking aura. 2 deep blue dragon jellyfish, 1 red and 1 blue, appeared in mid-air. The 2 deep blue dragon jellyfish shook their transparent tentacles. The sky rapidly started to rain. The rain fell in the body of water and constantly increased the body of water. A 7-meter-long shuttle-shaped shark appeared in front of Long Tao. Long Tao jumped directly onto the back of this shuttle-shaped shark. When he first met Lin Yuan, it was a Platinum 6/Epic Reef Dragon Shark. Now, it had become a Diamond X/Legend existence. Obviously, Long Tao was not going to provide the willpower rune for the Reef Dragon Shark. The Radiance 100 sequence members were appalled by Long Tao's lineup. Diamond X/Fantasy 4 Sea King Cretaceous Dragon. 2 Diamond X/Fantasy 3 Deep Blue Dragon Jellyfish. Just looking at the configuration of phase, Long Tao was stronger than Liang. If they really fought, Long Tao was very likely to defeat Liang. Moreover, Long Tao still had a trump card that he had not used. Long Tao had bought a wave halberd killer whale at the private auction. No one knew to what extent this wave halberd killer whale had been nurtured by Long Tao. Everyone could not help but worry and look at Lu Jie. They did not know how he was going to fight Long Tao with the Insect Queen. Even if there were many kinds of insects summoned by the Insect Queen, they had a complete set of functions. Their individual strength was not strong. As long as they were in the water area supported by the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon. The 8 Dragon Shadow skill formed 8 Sea King Cretaceous Dragon Phantoms, each with 60% of the main body's combat power. They would instantly tear the insect swarm apart. The deep blue dragon jellyfish dominated the sky. Wuxia's plasma moths and hurricane owlet moths would be affected. Unless Wuxia's insect queen produced plasma moths and hurricane owlet moths, they would have the strength of Diamond X/Fantasy 3. Only then would it be possible to fight head-on with the two deep blue dragon jellyfish. Just as everyone looked at Wuxia worriedly, Wuxia raised his hand and snapped his fingers. Immediately after, a huge moth with a light purple body appeared in mid-air. This moth's abdomen emitted a faint fluorescent light. Its body was covered with fine black patterns. As it flapped its wings, the black patterns on its wings seemed to spread into space. The nearby space could not help but shake. This moth was very strange to many Radiance 100 sequence members who came from ordinary backgrounds. It was very strange. However, to those Radiance 100 sequence members who came from top factions and veteran factions, this moth is too fucking familiar. This moth had once appeared at the Nyx assembly 2 months ago. Back then, this moth was the chief guard Spirit Guard's disciple. When it had challenged a group of young members of the top factions, it had summoned a fae. The people who realized this turned to look at Wuxia in shock. Could it be that Wuxia was Chief Guard a Knight's disciple? Instant Beast Evolution Quotient. Please bookmark this site so that you can read it online the next time there is an update. Read the first complete book in advance. The mobile version is the fastest. Chapter 1635. Thinking of this, the Radiance 100 sequence members from the top factions and veteran factions widened their eyes. They all stared with wide eyes. They carefully stared at the moth. They could finally confirm it. This moth was 100% a dimensional lamp moth of the insect-type carcinoma phase. It had been the martial duel between the Chief Guard's disciples. He would fight Lin Yuan and Zhong Zhe in the civil and martial duels. It could be said that it had refreshed the knowledge of the younger generation of the top factions. Among them, Zhong Zhe had used the Bloodline of Desolation phase and Sacred Source lifeforms. Even for the younger generation of the top factions and veteran factions, such things were too far away. It was hard to say if the seniors of the veteran factions had Sacred Source lifeforms. Even among the top factions, there were not many seniors who had Sacred Source lifeforms. Even among the top factions, there were not many seniors who had Sacred Source lifeforms. Coupled with the Bloodline of Desolation phase, one could only become a Radiance envoy. Or one could be chosen by Her Majesty and become her disciple. Only then could one obtain it. While everyone was in awe of Zhong Zhe, they could only be envious. It wasn't just the younger generation that could not understand Lin Yuan's fighting style. Even the family heads of the top factions and veteran factions were confused. He was also confused by what he saw from Lin Yuan's fighting style. They saw a lot of movement techniques and fighting techniques. How could the current Spirit Chi professionals have the time to practice such things? Lin Yuan must have used a Sacred Source life form. The female image that appeared behind Lin Yuan was the best proof. But what exactly was the Sacred Source lifeform's ability? For a moment, no one could figure it out. First, Lin Yuan had an extremely strong elemental immunity. It was an unimaginable single-target combat ability. At the same time, he could conceal his Spirit Chi professional rank. There was also the sword that had swung out a flock of dark crows. There was no way to explain all of this. As a result, Wuxia was the one that was the most discussed. He had used insect-type carcinoma phase to fight. Furthermore, every monster trainer's insect species carcinoma phase were at Diamond X/Legend. They had reached the limit of insect-type carcinoma phase. Such a fighting style was unheard of. Back then, the dimensional lamp moth with black patterns on its wings. In an instant, it had shot out 40 shield ladybugs. This made the Radiance 100 sequence members from the top factions and veteran factions feel strange. First, so many insect-type Fays had been summoned. Obviously, it was impossible to contract every single one of them. Secondly, one of Lu Jia's insect queen's skills was to mass-produce ladybugs. However, no one thought of Lu Jia's identity as Bureau Chief Ye's disciple. But now, Lu Jia and the chief guard's disciple of the spirit guards didn't have the same status. They had completely fused together. How could there be so many coincidences in this world? Besides, ordinary people didn't have the ability to control the dimensional light moth. Instead of summoning the insect queen, Lu Jia summoned the dimensional light moth. He left the insect queen in the dimensional lamp moth's stomach. On one hand, he didn't want to hide his identity anymore. A year later, it would be the Radiance Envoy selection. Right now, there was really no need to hide. Lu Jia had already spoken to Night Leaning Moon. He would not fight for the position of the Radiance Envoy. He wanted to be a member of Lin Yuan's Radiant Light Knight Order. In Lu Jia's opinion, this was the best ending for him as a retainer knight. On the other hand, Lin Yuan had given him the cocoon demon embryo before the 100 sequence selection. Lu Jia used it to fuse with the Blade Queen Bee. This was the insect-type carcinoma Fey that had caused the insect queen to mutate. As a result, the Blade Queen Bee had evolved very quickly. After the evolution, the Blade Queen Bee contained a spiritual toxin. It became even more concentrated. By absorbing this concentrated spiritual toxin, the insect queen's bloodline mutated again. It grew a new pair of wings. The current insect queen was already a 6-winged demon. After becoming a 6-winged demon, the insect queen's control over the insect-type carcinoma Fey became stronger. This allowed Lu Jia to command the insect-type carcinoma Fey with greater ease. To fight. The insect queen's evolution into a 6-winged demon was Lu Jia's trump card. It was naturally better to hide a trump card as deeply as possible. Lu Jia's bottom line would be revealed in the battle with Xiaoqing. In short, when the insect queen became a 6-winged demon during the battle with Long Tao, there was really no need to reveal it. After the dimensional light moth was summoned, Lu Jia immediately let the dimensional light moth release 50 shield ladybugs that the insect queen had just produced. The shield ladybugs were the insect queen's main defense. In any situation, they could be Lu Jia's powerful meat shield. The strength of these 50 shield ladybugs. All of them had reached the Diamond X/Fantasy Eye level. The appearance of these 50 Diamond X/Fantasy Eye shield ladybugs shocked the other 100 sequence members. The appearance of these 50 Diamond X/Fantasy Eye shield ladybugs shocked the other 100 sequence members. It also caused Xiaoqing's gaze to suddenly land on Lu Jia. The 50 shield ladybugs opened up the carapace on their backs. They shook the soft wings within the carapace and flew into the sky. Each shield ladybug chose a tree and landed on it. These shield ladybugs that landed on the tree each had a body of flesh and blood. They had the ability to stop the enemy's advance. Lu Jia had too many ways to defeat Long Tao. The simplest way was to let the insect queen, which had reached Diamond X/Fantasy V. It would produce 10 Diamond X/Fantasy 4 plasma caterpillars. It would produce another Diamond X/Fantasy V lightning gathering moth. It would let the lightning gathering moth gather the plasma spat out by the plasma caterpillars. It would unleash an attack that was far beyond the full power attack of a fantasy breed Fey. Long Tao's Fey needed to support the water during the battle. Water was an excellent natural conductor. The lightning gathering moth did not need to hit the body of Long Tao's Fey. As long as it hit the water, all of Long Tao's Feys in the water would immediately suffer heavy damage. However, Lu Jia did not choose to do so. This was because Lu Jia had been contracting the insect species carcinoma Fey for the past few months. To put it bluntly, he did not have many opportunities to use it in actual combat. To improve his combat skills. To conduct a celestial stairway duel on Star Web. It was also not convenient to use the insect species Carcinoma Fey to attack the opponent. Therefore, Long Tao was an excellent whetstone for Lu Jie. It was an excellent whetstone. At that moment, Lu Jie saw a water body in the distance. It was spreading toward him. In the sky, there was a red and a blue deep blue dragon queen. It was like a pair of flashing red and blue lights that were abnormally eye-catching. Since Long Tao had opened up the water body, Lu Jie snapped his fingers again. It was an insect species Carcinoma Fey that was like a light bulb and half the size of a palm. It appeared in Lu Jie's hand. This insect species Carcinoma Fey was the one from before. When Lin Yuan was heading to the island outside of Raging Wave City. He was afraid that collecting a large whale would cause harm to other aquatic Feys. The insect species Carcinoma Fey used was the nether floating hat worm. Chapter 1636. Back then, Lu Jie had used the larvae of the floating nether hat worm. All the wild Feys in the sea near the island were captured in one fell swoop. All of them were forcibly transported to the distant sea. Lu Jie issued an order to the queen UFO hat worm. Lay the eggs. In a moment, the entire body of water will turn into a concentrated sticky ball. Let the slime that the tentacles have turned into cover the entire area. Upon hearing Lu Jie's instructions, the UFO hatworm quickly curled up its body. Inside the translucent light bulb-shaped body, Lu Jie could see the traces of the worm fluid and energy. A large amount of insect protein was secreted and flowed into special insect organs. It passed through the worm's organs and continued to operate. One after another, translucent eggs appeared under the abdomen of the UFO hat worm. At this moment, a hurricane owlet moth flew out of the dimensional light moth's stomach. He picked up the eggs secreted by the floating twilight hat worm and flew towards the curtain of rain in the distance. The strength of this hurricane owlet moth was platinum I, normal. Such a powerful hurricane owlet moth had been produced. Lu Jie was not meant to be used in battle. As long as the hurricane owlet moths could carry these eggs and send them into the water, they would be able to survive. The hurricane owlet moth's mission had been accomplished. Riding on the back of the reef dragon shark, Long Tao saw Lu Jie from afar. Long Tao didn't know what tricks Lu Jie had. His understanding of Lu Jie came from the battle in the Great Night Convention's martial arena. At that time, Lu Jie had summoned the Blade Queen Bee, the mycelium worm, and other insect-type carcinoma Feys. These insect-type carcinoma Feys were adept at fighting on land. That was why Long Tao had acted in the beginning. Thus, he consumed his spiritual energy to allow the Sea King Cretaceous dragon to fly on the ground and in the air. They were all covered with water curtains. Long Tao saw Lu Jie from afar. Lu Jie didn't move. Long Tao did not dare to attack immediately. The power of positional warfare was mainly in attacking and defending within a certain area. Long Tao planned to spread the water under Lu Jie's feet. He wanted to see Lu Jie's reaction before making his next move. Seeing the hurricane owlet moth flying towards him, Long Tao didn't care too much. Everyone's attention was on Lu Jie. He didn't even use his creation master ability to sense the hurricane owlet moth's grade. He just let the two deep blue dragon jellyfish pass through the rain. He attacked the hurricane owlet moth. The strength of the two deep blue dragon jellyfish had reached Diamond X/Fantasy 3. The raindrops fell on the platinum I normal hurricane owlet moth. The hurricane owlet moth was pierced by the rain and fell into the water. This hurricane owlet moth suddenly died, unable to withstand a single blow. Long Tao's expression turned solemn. But now, the eggs of the floating twilight hat worm had already entered the water. Not to mention that Long Tao had not figured out the situation. Even if they found out, it was too late. The egg of the floating twilight hat worm was about to hatch. He needed to absorb the water elemental energy in the water. This body of water was created by the Sea King Cretaceous dragon using water elemental energy. The water elemental energy it contained was much more than the water elemental energy in the real sea. The core of the water elemental energy was the Sea King Cretaceous dragon. It could be said that the eggs of the floating twilight hat worm hatched. It was plundering the water elemental energy controlled by the Sea King Cretaceous dragon. As an insect-type carcinoma Fae, the dark floating hat worm was very dangerous to water bodies. It could be said to be destructive. Even if the sea folk could tolerate the sea burial lotus flower. Nor could he tolerate the floating nether hat bug. In just the blink of an eye, there was a light blue floating object on the water body. These floating objects all had small sails. They looked like transparent islands floating on the water body. The Sea King Cretaceous dragon was trying to expand the water body. The depth of the water body was not considered deep. It was only about 20 meters. The tentacles of the larvae of the floating twilight hat worm could reach 500 meters deep in the sea. It was not impossible for them to reach 1,000 meters of the water body if they had enough energy. This caused the transparent tentacles of the floating twilight hat worm to be piled up at the bottom of the water body. Even the water flow was blocked. According to Wuxia's instructions, the mother of the floating twilight hat worm commanded the larvae. By digesting its tentacles, it could produce a large amount of mucus. The Radiance 100 sequence members who were watching this battle saw, what was originally a perfectly fine body of water had instantly turned into a sticky gelatinous pool. The Sea King Cretaceous dragon used its 8 dragon shadows to summon 8 bodies. They were all trapped in the gelatinous pool and could not move at all. The Sea King Cretaceous dragon spent a lot of effort to continuously use sea bite. Finally, it used Emperor Dragon's breath to break out of the water body. The Sea King Cretaceous dragon flew into the sky with a disgusting gel stuck on its body. No matter how the Sea King Cretaceous dragon swung it, it was very difficult to get rid of the gel. Once it left the water, it would quickly dry out. It made the Sea King Cretaceous dragon's movements abnormally slow. The transparent mucus stuck on its mouth made the Sea King Cretaceous dragon open its mouth. It would take a lot of effort. The uncomfortable Sea King Cretaceous dragon wanted to activate its exclusive skill, Extremity of Sea. It gathered water elements to wash away the mucus. However, it was immediately stopped by Long Tao. Long Tao could now see the origin of these things that had turned the water body into a gelatinous pool. It was an insect-type carcinoma Fae, the floating twilight hat worm. The larvae of the floating twilight hat worm had an extremely strong regenerative ability. Even if it was torn apart by an aquatic Fae, as long as there was enough water element energy, it would rapidly split and regenerate. Who knew if the broken tentacles of the larvae of the floating twilight hat worm were hidden in the gel? As long as there was a tentacle, the Sea King Cretaceous dragon would gather water element energy to wash its body. The tentacle would then take the opportunity to regenerate. If the larvae of the floating twilight hat worm were to wrap around its body, it would be very difficult for the Sea King Cretaceous dragon to break free after a large amount of water element energy was absorbed. The Sea King Cretaceous dragon's strength might be Diamond X/Fantasy 4. The insect-type carcinoma Fae, the floating twilight hat worm, was only Diamond X/Legend. In the natural world, insect-type carcinoma Faes that were silver and above developed. They were enough to bring disaster to a large city. Once diamond insect-type carcinoma Faes developed, even an Emperor-class expert would not be able to do anything. Every larva of the floating twilight hat worm would hatch. Their strength would be half of the insect queen's, and they would all reach diamond. In this small water body, there were at least 500 eggs. The Sea King Cretaceous dragon was able to escape from this gelatinous pool. It was equivalent to fighting 500 diamond fays at the same time. Long Tao had never faced Lu Jie head-on before. Long Tao, who was facing Lu Jie now, suddenly felt it. The helplessness of the top faction's younger generation that had fought against Lu Jie in the martial arena. Right now, Long Tao was planning to use his ultimate move. Otherwise, if this dragged on, who knew what new insect-type carcinoma phase Lu Jie would bring out to deal with him. Long Tao waved his hand, and a giant whale that was twice the size of the Sea King Cretaceous dragon appeared. It appeared in mid-air. This giant whale was 80 to 90 meters long. There were many white areas on its black body. Chapter 1637. On its back was a 10-meter-long dorsal fin that looked like a halberd. After the giant whale was summoned, it immediately let out a roar. Long Tao said, "Next, I will unleash my strongest attack." Lu Jie replied softly to Long Tao. "What a coincidence, I also want to try out my new defensive method." While speaking, an insect-type tumor fey with a flat body and complicated patterns on its back appeared. It appeared in Lu Jie's palm. It was an insect-type tumor fey with a flat body and complicated patterns on its back. As soon as it appeared in Lu Jie's hand, Lu Jie's expression changed drastically. Xiaofan, who was watching the battle, said in a serious tone. "Demon flower gas shield bug. Another Diamond X/Legend insect-type tumor fey." Xiaofan glanced at Lu Jie with fear. Xiaofan had a deep impression of Lu Jie before. 2 years ago, Lu Jie single-handedly resisted the insect tide outside Frost City. They held on for half an hour. As a result, the insect queen's main fey was on the verge of death. It was Bamboo Monarch whom Xiaofan had invited for Lu Jie. Moreover, when he found out that the Bamboo Monarch was unable to heal the insect queen's injured origin, the insect queen's heart trembled. Xiaofan also went to her grandfather to find a way. Then, he contacted Supreme Chef in private. If it wasn't for the fact that the Moon Empress was in seclusion back then, Xiaofan might even go to the Leaning Moon Mountain for Lu Jie. Xiaofan had never told Lu Jie about this. Xiaofan was truly happy for Lu Jie that he could return to the Radiance 100 sequence. However, the strength that Lu Jie had just displayed was not something to be proud of. He had already surpassed the standards of his peers. At this time, Xiaofan suddenly thought. His grandfather had once told him that he was a disciple of the spirit guards. He was a youth that was adept at using insect-type carcinoma phase to fight. Xiaofan immediately matched Lu Jie with Night Leaning Moon's disciple. Each of Hui Yao's carcinoma phase was taken in by the spirit guards. Only Lu Jie, the chief guard's disciple, could do so. Only then would he be able to obtain so many insect species carcinoma phase. At this moment, Xiaofan seemed to understand something. Long Tao clearly knew Lu Jie. Why would Long Tao, who was ranked 3rd, challenge Lu Jie, who was ranked 30th? Long Tao must be doing Lu Jie a favor. Lu Jie's target should have been him. This caused Xiaofan's heart to be filled with a strong desire to fight. Even the Radiance 100 sequence number 2, Liang, couldn't do anything. Xiaofan did not regard him as her opponent. But now, Lu Jie, the disciple of Her Holiness, had no way to escape. His strength was undoubtedly at the peak of Radiance's younger generation. In Xiaofan's opinion, this was the extent of his strength. Only then was he worthy to be his opponent. Ever since Lu Jie summoned the demonic flower gas shield bug, Xiaofan knew that there was no suspense in this battle. This was the gas released by the demonic flower chi shield bug. It would instantly grow a space flower with the same pattern as the one on its back. By devouring life force, each spatial demon flower could be strengthened. Each spatial demon flower was only the size of a fingernail. Lu Jia's insect queen could produce insect species phase in large quantities. It was a Diamond X/Legend demonic flower gas shield bug that bloomed in the space. It had the defense of a diamond rank. After the devil flower devoured a large number of insect species phase, the insect queen would produce. The strength of these demonic flowers would increase to the limit of a fantasy breed in a short time. His fist smashed into the barrier released by the demonic flower gas shield bug. His fist would hit at least 20 demonic flowers. Each demonic flower had the ultimate defense of a fantasy breed. If he did not shatter 20 fantasy breed ultimate demon flowers with one punch, he would not have been able to do so. It was impossible to break through this layer of defense. However, Long Tao summoned this wave killer whale to attack. It couldn't possibly be the size of a fist. Even though Long Tao was a Class 3 creation master, he wasn't able to recognize the demonic flower gas shield bug. The star web did not have any relevant information on these insect-type carcinoma phase. He did not have a good teacher to teach him. It was very difficult to have access to such knowledge. Long Tao issued a command to the wave killer whale. Activate exclusive skill, Tidal Elegy. Upon hearing this, the wave halberd killer whale's body instantly turned blood red. The blood red color continued to spread out. It spread to the reef dragon shark, the sea king Cretaceous dragon, and the two deep blue dragon jellyfish. Long Tao's contracted aquatic phase quickly fused with the blood-colored energy. It was supplied to the wave killer whale. The ability of the wave halberd killer whale's exclusive skill, Tidal Elegy, was to absorb the energy of other aquatic phase. It would add the energy of these aquatic phase to its body and release it. It would absorb this huge amount of energy. As the wave halberd killer whale's tail flapped in the air, the clouds turned into the shape of a huge wave and surrounded the wave halberd killer whale. At that moment, the demonic flower gas shield bug in Lu Jia's palm had already lifted its abdomen. It released a series of colorful gases into the air. These colorful gases formed a triangular pyramid-shaped shield. It protected Lu Jia in the middle. These multicolored gases formed beautiful demonic flowers on the barrier. Immediately after, the dimensional lamp moth's abdomen. A total of 200 flesh-mincing blade insects ran out. These diamond eye/fantasy eye flesh-mincing blade insects threw themselves into the demonic flowers one after another. They became the demonic flowers' food. They also increased the demonic flowers' defense. These demonic flowers seemed to have a life of their own. After devouring the flesh-mincing blade insects, the demonic flowers moved away from the air shield. They would always be in front of Lu Jia. Long Tao had a solemn expression as he ordered the wave halberd killer whale. Use the Carnage Whale Fall. Crash over. Carnage Whale Fall was the wave halberd killer whale's diamond ability. This was also a suicidal attack method of the wave orca killer whale. Previously, the phantom hat worm's larvae had absorbed too much of the sea king Cretaceous dragon's water-type energy. This made the wave halberd killer whale's suicidal attack. It was not the limit of Long Tao's attack. However, this attack still exceeded the limit of a fantasy breed Fey. When Liang saw this scene, he sighed slightly. It seemed that no matter who won this battle between Long Tao and Lu Jia, he might not be able to keep his position as the Radiance 100 Sequences number 2. The strength that Long Tao had revealed now was something that he could not beat. Before Liang could sigh a second time, Liang suddenly widened his eyes. Liang saw that the originally calm sea of glue suddenly surged. A large number of transparent tentacles stirred the sea of glue. Immediately after, the tentacles drove the sea of glue, splashing huge waves that hit the sky. They went to meet the wave halberd killer whale. They blocked the wave halberd killer whale's path to Lu Jia. This scene appeared because the phantom hat worm's larvae were controlled by the larvae to launch an attack. Long Tao had only let the Sea King Cretaceous dragon escape from the Sea of Glue. He did not launch an attack on the Sea of Glue. Therefore, the phantom hat worm larvae did not die. An ordinary phantom hat worm would definitely not command the larvae to launch an attack in the air. They would only hunt for food in the water. Chapter 1638. However, the floating nether hat bug was under the control of the insect queen. Coupled with the intelligence of the diamond UFO hat insect, it was enough to make appropriate attacks and defenses. It could be said that everything in front of him. It was beyond Long Tao's understanding of the dark bat hat worm. Long Tao was completely unprepared. However, the wave halberd killer whale had already used Carnage Whale Fall. The energy in his body converged to a single point. Therefore, Long Tao could no longer stop the wave killer whale. Once the wave killer whale stopped, it would be very difficult for it to continue its attack. Therefore, Long Tao could only let the wave killer whale crash into the Sea of Glue wrapped in transparent tentacles. The sea glue itself was liquid and possessed an extremely strong buffering ability. The towering Sea of Glue was in front of the wave halberd killer whale. It formed a zone of rubber that was 500 meters long. The wave halberd killer whale crashed straight into the rubber. The floating nether hat worm's whiskers immediately wrapped around the wave killer whale's body. At this time, the wave halberd killer whale had become a huge flesh furnace. His body, which had turned into a furnace, was rapidly burning the energy in his body. Therefore, under the radiation of the wave halberd killer whale's energy, the entire area of the colloid was covered in ice. It quickly boiled over. The dark floating hat worm was an insect-type carcinoma Fey that was very afraid of heat. The high temperature of the wave halberd killer whale's body instantly killed all the larvae of the UFO larvae. But after the larvae of the floating twilight hat worm died, everything was not over. The larva's body quickly turned into a gel. It made the entire area of glue even more viscous. Sensing the energy consumption of the wave halberd killer whale's body, Long Tao pursed his lips. The wave halberd killer whale was destined to break through this area. But after the breakthrough, the energy in the wave halberd killer whale's body would basically be depleted. Long Tao knew that he had lost. Even if the wave orca killer whale unleashed this suicidal blow, he was also destined to be powerless to reverse the situation. When the wave halberd killer whale broke through the gelatinous domain, its body was already faintly collapsing. The entire glue sea was filled with the heat of the wave halberd killer whale. It was steamed until only half of its original volume remained. At this time, the shield ladybugs that Wuxia had placed on the tree began to move. One by one, they began to move. It charged straight towards the wave halberd killer whale. The strength of these 50 shield ladybugs had reached the Diamond X/Fantasy I level. 50 diamond shield ladybugs flew at full speed in a straight line. It was like a train, mixed with the roar of insect wings. It slammed into the wave killer whale's body. Using its insect body as a shield, it protected Wuxia. This was the reason why the Worm Queen had created these ladybugs. When Wuxia was weak, his fighting style was extremely effective. It won't make people feel anything. However, Wuxia was strong enough. 50 diamond/fantasy breed shield ladybugs were using their lives as shields. It was too shocking to watch. Each ladybug collided with the wave killer whale. It would turn into dust and scatter into the forest. He became a nameless skeleton. With each collision, the shield ladybug would greatly weaken the wave orca killer whale's attack. The carapace scraped off a large piece of flesh from the wave killer whale's body. Many broken insect limbs were buried in the wave halberd killer whale's body. When the 27th shield ladybug was destroyed, the wave halberd killer whale also exploded at the same time. The remaining 23 shield ladybugs had completed their mission. He turned around and flew back to Wuxia. In front of the demonic flower gas shield bugs, a stream of insects was formed. When any object came, these shield ladybugs would instantly rush over subconsciously. They would complete the mission that they were hatched from. The wave halberd killer whale's broken body was blown far away. However, in the end, the wave halberd killer whale couldn't touch it at all. The demonic flower gas shield bugs supported the demonic flower gas shield bugs. This scene made Long Tao and all the Radiant's 100 sequence members. They saw the gap between Wuxia and themselves. They understood Wuxia's strength. The 100 sequence members were silent at first, and then a voice sighed. He is worthy of being Chief Guard Ye's disciple. This sigh made those who didn't know what was going on. They knew Wuxia's identity. It turned out that Wuxia was Chief Guard Ye's disciple. Long Tao's Fays were all killed. Wuxia and Long Tao teleported out of the test venue. Long Tao sorted out his emotions and said with a smile, "The gap between us is really big." However, Long Tao wasn't the slightest bit depressed. Long Tao continued, "I think I should be able to break through the threshold of an A-rank spirit chi professional within half a year." Long Tao didn't have any other meaning when he said this. Long Tao and Wuxia were old acquaintances. Otherwise, Long Tao wouldn't have said such words. Wuxia smiled and said, "Then I shall congratulate Big Brother Long in advance." Then I shall congratulate Big Brother Long in advance. Wuxia thought to himself. 1 year later, Zhongzhe, Gulang, and the others. They should be able to become A-rank spirit chi professionals. He should be able to do the same. By then, he would be able to use the 12 cocoon demon embryos. He would be able to control at least 12 myth-breed insect species carcinoma phase. It could be said that after becoming an A-rank spirit chi professional, that would be his strong period. Wuxia was very clear about this. Lu Wencheng walked forward and reached out to pat Long Tao's and Wuxia's shoulders. He then said, "Long Tao, you might have passed this challenge and become the 30th in the list. But according to the rules, you will still have to choose your opponent according to your original position." Long Tao nodded at Liang apologetically. After Liang challenged Xiaoqing once, he forfeited the other 2 chances. This meant that Liang didn't have a chance to challenge anymore. Long Tao could now challenge Liang directly. He sent Liang to the 30th position. However, Long Tao felt that it was a little inappropriate to do so. Liang, who didn't have a chance to challenge, was sent to the 30th position. He wouldn't have a chance to challenge anymore. Long Tao simply chose the brave lion Leo, who was ranked 7th. He sent the brave lion Leo to the 30th position. When it was Leo's turn, he still had 3 chances to challenge. If he wanted to fight up, he could also fight up. After challenging Leo, Long Tao realized Leo, who had fully displayed his strength, wasn't much inferior to Liang. He should be able to fight evenly with Liang. After sending the brave lion Leo down, Long Tao challenged Liang. He was promoted to the Radiant's 100 sequences 2nd position. Liang became the 7th position. In response, Liang glanced at Long Tao with gratitude. Along the way, there were still many people who challenged Xiaoqing. However, no one succeeded. Soon, it was Wuxia's turn. Wuxia and his 2 brothers were talking about their situation. Bai Hao and Wang Fan were talking about their situation. Wuxia didn't hide anything from his good brother. At that moment, Xiaoqing walked to Wuxia's side. She said to Wang Fan, "Can you lend me your seat for 5 minutes? I have a few words to say to Wuxia." When Wang Fan heard that, he quickly moved to the side. Wuxia's head was confused at this moment. He clearly didn't have any interaction with Xiaoqing. He didn't know why Xiaoqing was looking for him. Chapter 1639. Bai Hao kept blinking his eyes at Wuxia and thought to himself. Brother, you're being hit on by a beauty. Can't you show a little enthusiasm? This is really worrying. When can you find a partner like this? Xiaoqing could be called a beauty with a light complexion. Her facial features were flawless, and her figure was good. Why didn't you take the initiative to talk to Xiaoqing? Xiaoqing, who was sitting beside Wuxia, looked at him. A faint smile appeared on her face. What Wuxia had done back then was enough to be called a hero of the Radiance sect. Xiaoqing had always been upset that Wuxia was unable to heal the Insect Queen. Now, Wuxia's Insect Queen was completely healed. He had obtained a new opportunity. This made Xiaoqing rather happy. Wuxia felt a little creeped out by Xiaoqing's gaze. He was also guessing why Xiaoqing was looking for him. At that moment, Xiaoqing said, "Why don't we put our battle on next year's Radiance Envoy selection? Why don't we put our battle on next year's Radiance Envoy selection? It's enough to fight for the Radiance Envoy position." Wuxia was slightly startled and immediately replied. "I'm not challenging you for the Radiance 100 sequence selection. I'm not challenging you for the Radiance 100 sequence selection. In addition, my target is not the Radiance Envoy, and I don't want to fight for it. I just want to become a member of the Radiance Light Knights, and that's enough. As long as I can become a member of the Radiant Light Knights, that is enough." As Night Leaning Moon's disciple, Wuxia had received her meticulous guidance. In terms of strength, he was enough to fight for the Radiance Envoy position. Xiaoqing did not know how many insect-type carcinoma phase Wuxia had mastered. Wuxia had just used an insect-type carcinoma phase, the floating hat bug, to defeat Long Tao. Wuxia had displayed the demonic flower gas shield bug, but he had not used it at all. On one hand, it was because Long Tao was too cautious. He had given the floating hat bug larvae too much time to prepare. Otherwise, the floating hat bug alone would not have been able to stop the wave orca killer whale. On the other hand, the diamond/legend insect-type carcinoma phase was too powerful. On the other hand, a diamond/legend insect-type carcinoma phase was too powerful. Fighting Wuxia was equivalent to facing a miniature natural disaster. The floating nether hat bug and the demonic flower gas shield bug didn't work together. However, if the few insect species carcinoma phase that Wuxia controlled were able to coordinate perfectly with each other, they would be able to defeat Wuxia. If that was the case, then the power it would display would not be as simple as it was just now. Xiaoqing didn't want to compete with Wuxia right now. On the one hand, it was because Xiaoqing didn't like to fight in front of everyone. He felt that this kind of battle was very troublesome. Secondly, Xiaoqing wasn't afraid of Wuxia. Even if Wuxia possessed at least 8 types of insect-type carcinoma phase, Xiaoqing was confident of defeating him. The oxygen absorption frog was with Xiaoqing, but it was not her main phase. Xiaoqing was only afraid that her battle with Wuxia would cause a blow to the Radiance 100 sequence members. That was why Xiaoqing found Wuxia. He said such words to Wuxia. However, Wuxia had said that he did not want to fight for the Radiance Envoy position. Xiaoqing couldn't understand. Xiaoqing looked straight into Wuxia's eyes and asked. "Why? Shouldn't the Radiance Envoy seat be the goal of every Radiance 100 sequence member?" Wuxia shook his head when he heard Xiaoqing's words. After thinking for the past few days, Wuxia understood why Master Night Leaning Moon didn't let him compete for the Radiance Envoy position. Indeed, if Lin Yuan and Radiance were to be separated one day and placed in front of Wuxia, Wuxia would make the choice. Wuxia would indeed choose the former. Such a mentality was obviously not suitable to be a Radiance Envoy. He represented the younger generation of Radiance and protected Radiance. Wuxia said that the premise of fighting for the Radiance Light Knight's position was that Lin Yuan could become a Radiance Envoy. If he became a member of the Radiance Light Knights, he wouldn't be able to protect Lin Yuan. Lu Jie simply didn't want to be a member of the Radiance Light Knights. Of course, Lu Jie definitely wouldn't say this to Xiaqing. In the end, Lu Jie only said 4 words, everyone has their own aspirations. When Xiaqing heard Lu Jie's words, she looked at the other Radiance 100 sequence members. She said, in that case, I can take the 3rd position. I'll leave the 1st position to you. However, I have a request. I hope that when you become a member of the Radiance Light Knights, you can give me an answer. Xiaqing's words were full of confidence. Lu Jie knew that Xiaqing's confidence was not as simple as words. Instead, it came from his confidence in his own strength. Lu Jie replied. It's a deal. Even if you don't become a Radiance envoy by then, I'll tell you the reason after I become a member of the Radiance Light Knights. As he spoke, the figures of Lin Yuan, Zhongzhe, Gu Lang, and An He flashed across his mind. Gao Feng was a pure support. He definitely could not become a Radiance envoy. Therefore, the Radiance envoy could only be contested by Lin Yuan, Zhongzhe, Gu Lang, An He, and Xiaqing. Basically, the names of the Radiance envoys had been confirmed. Everyone was just fighting for a position. The conversation between Lu Jie and Xiaqing was very low. No one else knew what Lu Jie and Xiaqing were talking about. However, Bai Hao and Wang Fan, who were sitting at the side, were dumbfounded. Was this the communication between the big shots? He had easily swapped the 1st position away from him. At the same time, Wang Fan and Bai Hao were truly happy for Lu Jie. Lu Jie had just revealed his identity and strength. It made them feel rather unfamiliar with him. However, they were not unfamiliar with Lu Jie at all. Lu Jie was still the good brother who had gone on missions with them, endured hardships, and enjoyed blessings. When it was Lu Jie's turn, he chose to challenge Xiaqing. In the end, during the match, Xiaqing only used the oxygen absorption frog. Lu Jie also only used the demonic flower gas shield bug. He also used the insect-type carcinoma fey and mycelium tapeworm in the Nyx assembly. Finally, after fighting for a while, Xiaqing admitted defeat. This situation was known to all the Radiance 100 sequence members. Just now, Lu Jie and Xiaqing must have reached some kind of agreement. Both of them hid their strength. No one knew what trump card Xiaqing had. However, Lu Jie did not reveal his insect-type carcinoma fey, dead soul caterpillar, and blade queen bee. The blade queen bee produced blade worms and mycelium tapeworms, which were a perfect match. Lu Wencheng acquiesced to this situation in his heart. However, he looked at Xiaqing with a slightly strange gaze. Lu Wencheng had watched Xiaqing, this proud and arrogant little fellow, grow up. In Lu Wencheng's opinion, it was strange that Xiaqing was willing to concede to someone else. Lu Wencheng thought to himself as he looked at the handsome Lu Jie. Xiaqing couldn't have some thoughts about Lu Jie, right? You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.